Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 447. Terry Miller, my name, alongside Johnny V, who celebrated a birthday yesterday, everyone.
Yep, we're on podcast 447. I celebrated 45.
Yeah, you did.
along with your daughter, who's
Not 45.
who according to Facebook is 23.
Well, we got to get around those terms of service somehow.
I just got a kick out of it because it came up in my Facebook feed. It was Mackenzie Miller's birthday, and it's like, oh, born in 2000, were you? Then maybe I should have got her a drink last night as we were sitting next to each other at dinner.
Nope. There was, there's some ways you got to get around some things, and that's how she must have figured it out one day. So Mackenzie, my daughter, celebrating her birthday, her 12th birthday today. And if you saw the Instagram post actually I made on the way out, there was a band concert going on at her school. So all the more reason to get together last night to have a joined
birthday celebration. We've done a few times in the past
throughout the years, so
it's always good to get the families together.
Tonight there was a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade band concert, and I was okay with heading out a little early to make sure I got here in the podcast just in time. In time. And of course, tonight's podcast, in just a few moments, we're not going to waste much more time. In just a few moments, we're going to have our champion from the FPO side this weekend. Paiges is going to be joining us. And before we even do that, we'll also say congratulations, of course, to our champion, who we had just a few weeks ago on the show on the MPO side. And that, of course, was Gannon Burr. So congratulations to him. And I guess without further ado, we don't need to pussyfoot around this anymore. Plus, my space bar is super glued on my...
What?
It's another story for the after show. Welcome in, everyone. We have Paige Pierce, the Open at Austin champion. Hi, Paige.
Hello, how's it going? Happy late birthday, Johnny V.
Oh, thank you, Paige. Much appreciated. When is your birthday?
The last day of May, right around Portland Open time.
Okay. Do you guys usually get together and celebrate on the road around Portland? What's your favorite thing to do around your birthday? Because you're always traveling, so.
Yeah, I mean, my birthday this past year, I was supposed to be in Bend. It would have fallen between Portland Open and the next one. And I had some flight troubles and actually ended up just flying back to Pensacola and spent the day on the beach with Alyssa and the puppies. This year it'll be like 2 days after the tournaments, and actually was just talking with Joe about flights and did I want to hang in Portland for my birthday or do I want to come back here? Is Alyssa going to be with me? Stuff like that. So I'm actually not sure yet, but right. Portland's a good place to be. We'll have to see.
All right.
And so with that, we'll immediately get right into the fact that your lifestyle obviously has changed in the last couple of years in that you have a home, you have dogs, you have Alyssa, you have so much more of this. I don't want to say grounded because I don't want to imply anything, but you have so much more of this physical, non-moving structure being your house, and whether you consider that grounded or not. But the fact that you have that, what is it still be? What is that like getting home, going home, trying to get home versus your time on the road? Because that's not what your lifestyle was for 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, no, it's super nice. I feel like when I get to an event, I feel well rested, and it's almost like I know I'm there to work,
Okay.
and it's like I'm clocking in. I get on the flight and it's like, okay, now it's Paige Pierce time, and I put on the side pony and I, got my disc golf gear on and I'm like clocking in, and so it makes it feel more like a job. And like, for example, I just left to go to the Texas Swing tournaments, those 2 tournaments, and it felt like, okay, well, if I'm packing my bags and I'm spending this money on the flight and I'm prepping for this, like, I got to make this trip worth it. I got to make it count. I got to put my all into it. Whereas before, every day just kind of blended together, and like it kind of like was like, oh well, it didn't win that one, like we'll try again next time. But now it's like, okay, if I'm gonna go to these tournaments, like I need to be committed and I need to be there. So it's been super nice. And then vice versa, coming home too, like it's like, okay, you're taking your disc golf hat off and you're at home and you need to be present at home. And besides, interviews like this. But yeah, for the most part, when I'm home, I'm trying to like be home and connect with my friends and family and loved ones, and yes, still make time for disc golf, but trying to find that balance and to make sure that I'm living my entire life and not just spending so much time worrying about what shot I threw or didn't throw well.
I almost hate to even use the word, but because what is it to anyone? But does it feel more normal? Does this feel like how maybe a lot of other people have been dealing with disc golf? Not that road life's not amazing, but is traditional, normal? Are those words? Or I mean, you're probably not too concerned about the labels, though, right?
Yeah. I think I've talked about this on your podcast before, so sorry to beat it down if I have, but just I got home 2 days ago. I drove straight through and I got home at 2 a.m. But so yeah, I guess it was yesterday I unpacked the van and I grabbed all my dirty dishes. My sink in the van's not working, so I grabbed all the dirty dishes and brought them inside and just started doing the dishes. And I was just like, wow, a sink, like this is amazing. The little things you take for granted, like someone coming to get the trash tomorrow. Got to remember to put the trash out tonight, and like stuff like that. But yeah, it definitely feels more normal, like, and also just allows me to have more time to like go to the doctor. I'm scheduling a doctor's appointment and like stuff like that, where it's like on the road, you don't do that. You really don't do that. So it also helps with trying to plan a wedding. So yeah, it definitely feels normal and something that I've never had. Like I literally went on the disc golf tour as a professional when I was 19 years old, straight out of high school. So I've never lived a life like this. What people say is normal, like I've never had that. So it's been cool to, you know, see what my parents have always talked about being normal and all that. So yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, I mean, again, the lifestyle you had in that you were on the road full time. I think there's literally millions of people that would, give their right arm or maybe their non-throwing arm, whatever it is, to have, led that lifestyle for at least some period of time as you've been able to do. So, not that you would have any regrets of it, but now seeing it at an older age, coming from a more traditional vantage point, has to be just very different for you.
It's an evolution.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what we're
Yeah,
becoming.
I'm just doing things different order than most people, I guess.
Exactly.
Most people like live the normal life and then they go chase their dreams. I'm kind of doing vice versa, but this is my dream as well, just to experience all avenues of life. So it's maybe different than most people, but I'm enjoying both sides of it.
So, of course, the burning question has to be, did either of you, because I didn't see any updates, did either of you say yes to the dress? Is there,
Yeah.
what give us the update?
So Alyssa did, and it's funny too because we didn't plan this, but we ended up looking at dresses on the exact same day at the exact same time. Both of us at 4 p.m. on whatever it was, Saturday. Um, and I just knew she was gonna get one. Her mom is in town, and I was just like, she's gonna buy one. Like her mom's gonna hype her up and be like, "Oh, this is the one. This one's perfect." And with the support of her mom and also Tina, I just knew like they were gonna get one, and she did. Um, I didn't, but I narrowed it down. And also, I'm just not gonna spend that much money on a wedding dress. It's crazy. It's
Okay.
crazy.
Okay.
That's a woman after my own heart. My wife spent $500 on her wedding dress, and that was
Yes, see,
like,
I found a website, June's Bridals. There's a few of them, but the dresses are like $175. But like, I didn't know what cut or like, I didn't know any of the terms. Now I'm learning drop waist and A frame, and I'm learning all this stuff. But yeah, so now I kind of have an idea of what to go after. And then actually, Missy's coming next week for her birthday. She's playing Houston, and then she's coming here to her 35th birthday is next week.
Okay.
Everyone shout out to Missy
Mhm.
next week. And she's coming to Pensacola to celebrate, and we're gonna actually go look for dresses again while she's here. Hopefully find something. But yeah,
is it public
working on it.
knowledge when the wedding is?
November 11th.
November 11th. Okay. 11
Yep.
11. Awesome. And
Yep.
gosh, I have all these funny questions in my head. are you guys going to? I mean, there's the old wedding tradition of not seeing each other before in each other's garments. Are you guys going to do that? Are you going to show each other's dresses beforehand? And like, what is? Do you have any ideas of that stuff at all? Or
a lot of it we're still working out, but for that one we have decided like we don't want to see each other in the dress for sure, but if the dress comes in, we share a closet. So it's
Mhm.
like it's probably going to sit in the closet. Like maybe I'll see it, but I'm not going to see it on her and vice versa. And yeah, definitely just want to wait on that. But yeah, it's fun to
That's
like make
fun
all those
stuff.
decisions. Yeah, it is.
Do you?
Well, and that was gonna be my follow up, which is, and it's kind of along those lines. The fact that you guys didn't plan to go do it, so to speak, on the same day to go wedding dress shopping, that kind of answered even the first question, which would have been that you're not involved in picking out each other's in any capacity, which I think is really interesting as well. I mean, you just said you don't want to see each other in it, in each other's, in the dresses, but yeah, just not being involved in helping pick out. I don't know. It's
Totally.
awesome.
It's
Yeah.
weird. It's weird
Okay.
because we talk about everything and like, every time we leave the house, she's like, "How do I look in this? Like, is this gore?" And vice versa. And so it's like, well, that's like the most important one. Like, but anyway, it's funny. But that's
Awesome.
what we have friends and family and loved ones for to help with that decision.
Do you have a wedding planner and all this stuff? Someone helping you do, cake and meals and flowers and colors, all that other stuff, or you guys doing that all on your own?
Actually, the type wants to. So I didn't think we needed a planner, but it perspective. We could probably do all that planning, but like the day of, like you know, be on top of stuff so you're not that day like, "Oh, I gotta switch this or do that." And so we decided to go with a wedding planner and she's awesome. Her name's Elizabeth and we have like every other week we have a call with her where she updates us on stuff. We're like, "Hey, we're 6 months, we should stuff like that." So we don't really have to work, which is great. But yeah, it's going super well and yeah, we got a lot of things planned, but a lot yet to do still.
Well, I think we can do enough wedding talk for now.
Yeah.
We'll.
What I was gonna say is, aside from the planning, I see via socials usually just how insanely busy, not just you, but Alyssa and Tina. I called Tina about a week ago, and I'm like, I figured you'd be in like salsa class or something. You'd be dancing. I did not actually think she'd pick up the phone. It seems like there is no downtime for you, and I mean that in a good way. That you seem preoccupied and busy doing adventurous, largely or semi-adventurous stuff almost every minute. Do you feel that right now? Is that just part of you living your fullest life, that it seems like every minute you guys have something fun going on?
Yeah, I think that's just kind of my nature. I have a hard time sitting still. I think I got that from my grandpa. We tell him he has restless leg syndrome. Just never sits down, like even
uh,
when he's eating dinner. And it's funny because like I noticed that in myself. Like as soon as my last bite of food's gone, I'm like, okay, where are we going? What are we doing? What's the plan? Got to clean up. And I don't know how that happened to me besides genes maybe, but that's just I can't slow down. I can't sit. It's like I just start like shaking my leg of like what's my plan, what I got to do. And so yeah, I try to fill that with like things that make me happy. I have a lot of to-do lists. Alyssa teases me all the time about how many to-do lists I have. But I try to balance that out with like things that I want to accomplish, but also things that I just want to enjoy. Um, but yeah, so doing a lot of stuff and also just like new to another part of like that normalcy thing is like having a home and having a community and like wanting to try new restaurants and to see what's going on around town and like to like dive into what is Pensacola. And so like going to like, salsa nights and drum circles and stuff like that and seeing what is around town. So yeah, definitely always on the move. But I like it that way.
So when you talk about your to-do list and or goals or accomplishments, now maybe we'll segue a little bit into disc golf. What's on that list? What is a concern when you look into 2023 and you were remodeling your bathroom and we didn't see you at at Vegas. You got started, you started a couple of events in, taking extra time. I know you're traveling all over the world in Thailand and Cambodia and Malaysia and those places. But when you look into 2023, what's on that list of your immediate goals or things you want to obtain this year?
Well, I mean, it it kind of comes and goes, depending on long term, short term, it could also change tomorrow, really. But one of my goals was just to win a pro tour this year, to win a major. Um, I think every single year of my career, I've won an Elite Series event, so I wanted to, keep that streak alive, and luckily, I've already done that. So that feels like, I feel some bit of pride in that, and to add to that would just be to win a major this year, and luckily I have 4 chances to do so. The first one coming up super soon. That's 2 tournaments away for me. Um, so to go into that confident and feel like, also being the returning champion, I feel like that will help my confidence and help me to try to achieve one of my goals for the year. Um, Other than that, of course, the sixth time is always on my mind. But try not to put too much pressure on that. Try to just get there when I get there. But yeah, I think like more broad goal is just to kind of keep my mindset positive the whole year long, and to, when I'm at an event, be stoked about being there. Don't complain about any courses, don't complain about any conditions. If it's windy, if it's raining, if I hate the course, it doesn't matter. Like, just look at the positives and try to smile through it, basically.
It seems so funny, and maybe from this side of the viewers, we take it for granted, but you said one of your goals was to win an Elite Series event this year. And for everybody else, that's maybe not you, that just seemed inevitable for all of us. Like, we just assume, is that not how you think about it? Do you not just think like, oh, I'm going to get 1 or 2 Elite Series this year? Because, or do you look at the competition? First of all, I guess I'll say, did you always think that, or did you kind of make an assumption that you would? Or is this year different in that you're seeing some of the competition like Kristen and Kat and Missy and Own? Like, it feels like everybody's raising their game. Has that changed throughout the last 5 or 10 years for you?
Um, no, I, I mean, I guess so, right? Because there's definitely been years where I'm like, I'm gonna win every single tournament that I play, and truly felt that and believed it. Um, and so I don't know. I mean, I guess I would say, like, trying to think like and put myself back in my head, like before Waco, I felt confident. I felt like I had a chance to win it. Um, but I guess like where it's changed is that there's so many more competitors, and not only that, is that there's so many more competitors that really do have a chance to win. And so it comes down to them not being on their A game, me being on my A game, and my mindset being in the right place, and the course, you know, giving me good breaks, and the course, suiting my game. So, um, there's a lot more factors than I think there has been in previous years. Back, Terry, I know you remember this, like, it used to be me, Katrina, Val, or Hokum are going to win the tournament. And it was that way for years and years and years, like 3, 4, 5 years. Um, you know, us four were going to be the same card mates every single round. And that was that. Now you don't know what you're going to get. We're playing new courses, we have new players, like, and yeah, there's things are just quite a bit different. So you have to let go of those previous expectations and kind of, you know, be realistic.
Do you feel like
Otherwise, you're going to get disappointed.
you sure?
Sorry.
No, 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 no. Of course, always finish your answer. Sorry. You mentioned about the course, like fitting you. Do you feel like this Austin course fit your game? Because I looked at it and, I don't want to offend you, but this course had a lot of OB. And in the past, you've kind of been an OB magnet. You've always been aggressive is what we say. You never seem to, I don't want to say you don't take the OB into account, but you tend to play more you used to play more dangerously. Is that different this year? Because you had 4 OBs or 6, I think maybe 4 OBs this weekend, which was, I think, second or third on the list of, I have to take a look at UDisc. I looked at it earlier today and wrote it down. And then of course I forgot my notes. So are you approaching this differently, or do you feel like you just didn't find the OB?
So I think that also kind of goes like depending on what point of my career it's been. Um, you know, I for so long was winning tournaments, winning, and I don't know what my OB stats were at that point. But I have to imagine they weren't too high, otherwise I probably wouldn't have been winning. Um, and I was like more playing golf, and then there was a stage in my career where it sounds so silly to say, but I just really just want to be honest. And I know a lot of people maybe can't relate to this, but I just want to speak my truth. But like where winning just didn't seem like the priority, winning wasn't like that fun. And what seemed more fun to me was like throwing a shot that I was going to remember, and like coming back to that hole 10 years from now and being like, "Oh my God, that one time I threw this shot on this hole." And that was what excited me for a couple years in a row. And so, yeah, it with that as your thought, you're going to be challenging OB quite a bit more. Um, and it was still exciting, whether or not I succeeded in that shot or not. It was, hey, you have the guts to do this, and you tried it, and yeah, it didn't go your way this time, but you gave it your all and you committed. So I just really didn't care, I guess, too much, but I felt like this weekend, especially after a poor showing in Waco, I really wanted to focus on uh, the golf and to be more consistent and to not go for many shots that were going to get me in trouble. But um, as far as the first part of your question where you asked about if the course suited me, I think it really did. Like I didn't feel like many of my shots challenged the OB lines very much. Um, I think a lot of people were making the holes more difficult than they were, is like throwing faster discs when they didn't need to, or throwing hyzers over the OB, where I just threw straight shots with a putter or a mid range and eliminated any chance of that.
Okay. And a couple of follow-ups to that. One, first of all, I see that you had 6 OBs apparently on the weekend. So just for anyone keeping track at home, thanks to you, to 6 OBs. But 2, I feel like if we turned off our brain and turned off the video just for a second and then re-listened to everything you just said, somebody might say, wait a minute, is that Simon Lizotte? Like, is that Simon talking about like backing away from maybe the hero shot or the fun shot and instead going after the safer play, the higher percentage, those types of shots? It feels like there's a little similarity just in that mentality. Now I don't want to call it a luxury, but you also, even when you were taking those, you were then potentially still going on to win and maybe win by 10. Simon, for instance, that might have been the thing that ended his round or his tournament.
Yeah, quite a bit
crazy
different
shot somewhere, just due to the parity in the divisions. But as you were explaining that, I'm envisioning a little bit of a Simon mentality as well, about just like keeping to the safer, smarter game plan more often and not necessarily as concerned about those crazy or fun shots. But I guess we'll see how those continue to shake out from time to time.
Yeah, for sure.
There was also kind of a storyline, or maybe just a stat. Maybe storyline is overselling it. But 2 of the things that came to mind: one, 151st victory. I'd love to get your take on that, if that number at all means anything. And then 2, the other kind of number was just the fact that we hadn't seen you win a big event since the major? And I know Nate kind of asked you about that, and how you replied about how you really didn't think about that. Do those two answers kind of go hand in hand? You're not worried about when your last win was, or what does that mean to you to get 151st win in FPO?
Yeah, it really isn't on my mind at all. Um, I think stats are really cool. And when I didn't play Vegas and I watched every single minute of the broadcast, every time they brought up a stat on there, it was really cool. And I thought, wow, this really adds to the broadcast, and it gives like another storyline, and it's exciting. And same thing like when you're watching NBA or something and they're like, you know, this is the fourth time in his on the home court in a blue jersey that he's done this, and it's just like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's like, come on,
They're
what
a
does
little
that stat
obscure.
even mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and so I kind of felt that a little bit with the where Nate's question about the eight not having a win in eight months, where four of those months was off season. So it's like, if I could win
sure,
an event once every 4 months, that's pretty solid, I think.
sure.
So um yeah, I think it's somewhat something that I'm happy that I don't pay attention to. Otherwise, it could, if I'm sitting there thinking, man, the last time I won was European Open, it's going to put a lot more stress and pressure on me um, going into, eh, any tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely not something that you want to pay attention to as an athlete trying to, win an event. And then the 151st win, I think that's super cool and something to look back on. Um, but not right now. I'm
Yeah,
still playing, so I'm not looking back on anything yet. I'm still making strides and winning. However, when I do retire from the sport, like that's going to be a really cool thing to look back on.
It'll look really good on your Hall of Fame plaque. Let me say that.
Yeah, on my resume for my next job,
Yeah, there you
hey, I've
there
won
you
151 disc golf
listen.
tournaments.
I mean, I'm sure you'll get a spot next to Tear Bear in the booth at some point if you're lucky.
Oh, perfect.
I mean, that'll be set.
Perfect.
I think more so than you haven't won in 8 months. I'm I don't want to say troll, but I'm on the internet a lot. I got a day job. I can sit and wander. I think the don't judge me. I think a lot of what the conversation was is not necessarily the time, but just when was the last time you beat Kristen? That was a lot. Like there were all these
mm,
memes out there for a while about like Kristen behind you, just the whole thing. Because you had I think the last time you beat Kristen heads up was Champions Cup when you won your major last year.
Okay.
And so does that creep into your head at all? Do you think about that? Because for a long time it was Cat versus Paige. Like that was the big, the big
Uh-huh.
battle. And since Kristen came in last year and played very, very well, I think that has maybe shifted a little bit to Paige versus Kristen, whether it's just from a viewer perspective. Do you feel any of that? Like this is my new competitor, or man, I really can't seem to get past her. At least you hadn't for a while, but obviously you have now.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I think it might have been 2 years ago. Um, yeah, I was hearing that kind of storyline, and I didn't know the stats or anything like that. But then I think it's called, is it Statmando that
Yeah,
you can
Stat
do
Mando.
mm-hmm.
head to head?
I was just
Yeah.
going out there. Yeah.
That's like right when that was coming out. That was like right when Statmando was coming out, and I saw that we were pretty much dead even. Like we had both won the same amount, same seconds, same thirds, and I was like, wow, this is first of all a really cool website. Second of all, that's really cool, and that gives me something else to like strive for, and to keep in the back of my head. And then fast forward to last year. It's not something that I'm really paying attention to week in and week out. It's like I won the event or I didn't win the event. It's not necessarily like who beat me, how many times does that person beat me. That really can just tear you down, I think, if you start thinking about those things, or at least me personally. Um, and it's really funny because uh like I feel like I had a really good year last year. I had won 3 Pro Tours and two majors, and I considered it a good year. I won Player of the Year, and And then I see all these things of like, oh, Kristen got robbed, player of the year, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, people really aren't giving me credit for the year I had. Like I had a great year. And
Uh,
but then I saw her stats and she didn't finish outside the podium in the ever all
Ever.
year long,
Mhm.
the top three. And I was like, holy shit, like, wow, that is a good stat right there. And oh, I think I said shit.
You're good. You're
Anyway,
good. We're not
it
FCC
happens.
yeah,
Now
regulated.
I
that's
said it
right.
And
again.
my daughter's
And
heard
now
way worse if she's
Yeah.
up. So you're all good.
sorry,
You're,
Mackenzie.
you're all
Um,
good.
but really, like when I learned that stat, because I was like, what do they mean I don't deserve player of the year? Like, I won two majors, like 2 out of 4. Like, that's amazing. And 3 Pro Tours. Um, and then I see that stat and I'm like, wow, okay. Never finishing outside the podium. Like, forget about who you beat or those times you got second or third. Like, to always be on the podium, always be in the conversation. That's incredible stat. And so, um, I forgot what the question was, if I'm being
If
perfectly
you're just
honest with
thinking
you.
about like you
Yeah.
versus her and what I'll jump in
Oh,
and say
okay.
is it just it feels kind of like that's what the media does. That's we're contriving these stories and you're essentially it feels like you're saying you can't be too wrapped up in any of those
Definitely
stories. That's
not.
what we do,
Definitely not.
right?
But yes, I do notice that. Of course you notice when, like, I mean, I've already known Kristen was an incredible thrower of the disc, for the last few years. Like, what, probably since like 2018, I saw her
Mm-hmm.
throw a disc, 2017, and everyone back then, the media was, oh, Henna Nevelina, the upcoming, Europeans. And I'm sitting here like, they don't even know about this Kristen Tatar girl that's coming up. Like, you know, and then she just incredibly continued to rise her talent. And, she actually back then, she wasn't really throwing sidearms at all. She was like a master of the hyzer flip.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just like relying on flip up shots and turnovers and then developing the sidearm and really, really fine tuning her putt. I mean, she's got one of the most powerful putts, period, men or woman. Um, and so, yeah, I definitely feel her coming, but I think for me, it's cool to add to, not just the Paige and Kat thing. Now and you said it's Paige and Kristen, but really, Kat is very much still in that conversation. And now so is Ella and Missy and Holland and all of these people. And so, Val, when she comes back, and like, you know, I think that makes the sport seem more legitimate, having more people that are talented. So I think overall it's a win in every column that you check it off in.
Yeah, I just think that as like Terry said, as the media and even as spectators, you're right in that there is so many more women out there that can win, but we all want to see, for whatever reason, a heads up battle. It's always been the Paul Ricky show. Even though right now we see how many men, Gannon and Ellis and Heimberg and everything, but there's still always something to be said about that classic one-to-one battle. So I think as a media and as viewers, we're always looking for a one versus one. Who are the rivals, so to speak, and whether it's really there or not, it's honestly just a lot of contrivedness about this particular division right now.
Well, maybe you guys should sponsor like in a little event, me versus Kristen, and I'm sure both of us will be willing to do it,
Heck yeah.
There we go.
I love it. Yeah, and just to drive that point home, maybe for the final time, one of the side notes to this weekend, of course, you winning, you proving you're every bit as good as you always have been, but then the side story to Kristen and that podium was this weekend was the first time she missed it in now 19 events. So she's podiumed, basically every time she's played anything except for Worlds in 2021 in Utah when she, struggled with grip and humidity and flight and everything else. But other than that, she's been on the podium, and this was the first time. And it's funny as it sounds, someone like myself who broadcasts and is so heavily involved in FPO footage and coverage, to me that was very much the secondary story is like, wow, she's not only not vying for the win, she's not going to finish on the podium, and that's just been such a surprise because of her consistency. And you're right, it's been so impressive all this time for sure. So when you look at this weekend, I think I even sent out the tweet. Does this jumpstart you? Does this revive you in any way? Did you need a revival? Was this just everything clicked right? Is there, if you were writing an article about Paige Pierce and her next event, what are some of the things that are like, yeah, this should probably get talked about? What would a few of those bullet points be?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I feel like the course is somewhat similar as far as like it's pretty open with lots of OB, lots of elevation change. So I think that, if I throw the disc how I did this week, I felt very confident off the tee. I mean, I didn't question is I never, the entire tournament, all 3 rounds, I never had a thought of, oh, what if I hit that tree? Oh, what if my disc flips over? It was just
Even on the double Mando,
aiming.
when I watched you hit the tree.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Because that's a
actually,
pretty tight
yes,
gap. I think everyone
okay,
walks up to that and goes,
yes.
"Ooh, what if I hit that tree?"
I wasn't until Missy hit it. So actually that one's funny because Missy had the box. She had just made that like 60, 70 footer, big putted us, and then rubbed it in and was like, oh, you let me big putt y'all, whatever. And then she takes the box and hits the tree, and I'm like, that's what you get. And then I hit the tree and I'm like, damn it. And then Kristen hits the tree and she was like, you guys, you made me do that. And like I wasn't even looking at the tree until Missy hit it. And and then Kristen wasn't looking at the tree until we both hit it, and then so yeah, that was yes, that was a blemish on that. But you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
95% of my shots, I just felt like it was just like robotic, almost like just aim, fire, and it was just like I was impressing myself, which was really cool. Like I would let the disc go and be like, "Yeah, that was me. I did that." And just watching it fly through there, and it was just like, yeah, it was just fun. It was just fun, and uh, yeah, I hope that I can repeat it. I know I
Yeah,
can.
I
It's
was gonna
just a
say,
matter of if
what
I
is
can
it?
keep that mindset.
Yeah, that maybe
Oh,
is
I
it.
think it's the
Like, what
mindset.
is
I
it
think
that
it's
you need to do to hit repeat? What do you feel like needs to be done?
I think it's like your self-talk, and if you're feeling doubt or if you're feeling like insecure in any way, or like anything gets in your head, and then it's funny because something really small could be in there, and then something happens and it grows and it grows and it grows and it grows, and then that's all you can think about. So um yeah, I think just keeping my brain quiet, and in doing like how I've kind of remedied that is just going a little quicker, and not giving myself enough time to come up with a story of what could go wrong.
Uh, a strategy we've seen at the first 2 events of the year. Your caddy. Give everyone the scoop. Is he going to be full time all year? What's kind of the plan for your situation, your caddy situation for the rest of the year?
Uh, well, actually, Nate just asked me if he could caddy at Champions Cup. He said that he's not playing or on the broadcast, so that's going to be the situation at Champions Cup.
Don't
So
count on
happy to
him.
have Nate back on the back.
He
Why?
I was gonna say he might get into Champions Cup.
Oh,
Oh,
that's. He may not want to. I mean,
may not want to,
if
I
he's
mean.
locked
I
in,
mean,
if
Nate's kind of the type of guy where when he says he's going to do something, he's going to do something.
yeah, he might.
But
be
if he
locked
has the
And
opportunity to play,
I don't
I'm
know.
just saying, keep it in the back of your head that you might
true,
need another
true.
caddy.
No,
You never
if you,
know. I mean, I'm sure Nate would be a
yeah,
great caddy.
Nate is a great caddy, and he knows my bag very well. He knows my thoughts. He knows my bag. So it's like any chance that I can get Nate on the bag is going to be um like best case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
But my caddy for the first two events, his name's Jared,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a good friend of mine. And is he does he's actually learning my bag very quickly and has come to a few practice rounds as well to make sure he knows how I'm attacking the course. So if and when I have a question, he's like, well, in practice, this, and he is just very intuitive and he just knows me super well. So he knows like what I'm thinking. He knows what to say when I'm feeling a certain way. And also just is just like the happiest man on the planet and can always just make me smile if I get into a moment of like frustration or disappointment or sadness or anything like that. Um, and he is painting, he's one of the muralists
Mm-hmm.
that's been doing the paintings at, they did them at Idlewild and
USDGC, the
USDGC and
Pro Am.
now Waco and Austin. They got a deal with the Pro Tour, so they're doing some painting at Preserve and Music City and
Cool.
maybe Portland. So he said anytime I need him, he's more than happy to help out. And so I think, yeah, he'll probably caddy at Nashville. But other than that, I mean, I don't necessarily need a caddy anytime. Like I got a cart and I appreciate, pushing that up but when it's hilly, I definitely take the grip out of the cart and just carry my own bag. But it definitely saves you from picking it up and putting it down, picking it up, putting it down, and just the general wear and tear that can bring. Um, but yeah, it's nice to have a team and some, you know, you feel like it's a team thing and you
Mm-hmm.
throw the shot and you have someone to talk to about it, whether it went good or bad, like you can talk it out. And so I do really appreciate that part of it and feeling like a team.
Yeah, and it was at Waco when we first saw him this year caddying, and I was in the booth, and just the way that at one point the two of you were bobbing your heads, I was like, I think they're sharing earbuds, just one with each, and then I think a little later it was confirmed. It looked as if that was the case. You had one in, he had one in. I'm like, okay, yeah,
Yep.
they're definitely in sync in the most literal of ways in what they were listening to.
They weren't into NSYNC, but yeah.
You sure?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Okay. I'm just
Yeah.
projecting. I don't know. Um, so Nashville, of course. Next, I guess my kind of question that circles around all of that is what, especially with how busy you guys are, what will determine when, say, Alyssa and or the dogs, like what how do you guys kind of set that schedule, or is that just a case by case basis that isn't even ironed out for the year as to when you're traveling alone, so to speak, as opposed to when Alyssa or the rest of your crew goes with you?
Yeah, that is something that I leave up to her. She knows that I would want her to come to every event if possible, but um, she has her own life and she when she comes to a tournament, that's what it like she doesn't have the like capacity to do what she wants to do because she gets like sucked into my world and helping me and supporting me and you know I want her to have her own happiness and not just be there just for me. Um, so it's nice for her to have her own like goals and ambitions and things that she wants to do. Um, and for us to realize that and to, you know, miss each other for a little bit, which is also nice. Like saying goodbye and saying hello is also just like it helps you to not take for granted the relationship, when you have to say bye, when you're saying bye soon, you're like taking every moment that you can and then when you also it helps me uh when she's not there actually because I can focus more on practicing longer and not just like, okay, I gotta hurry. I want to go hang with Alyssa.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I actually am like, taking my time and practicing. Um, so we've learned all of these things and, are just trying to make the best decisions for both of us. And I think, of course she's going to come to a few events, but we're not sure what those would be yet. Hoping that she comes to Champions Cup. It's only 5 hours from our house, and our pups love it there. And um, she has a lot of friends on the tour too that she wants to see. But I just we know that when she does come to event, we have to keep in mind those things, that she needs to remove herself so that I don't rush away from a practice round to come see her, and then also so she can have some time to herself and not just get so like vacuumed into all of these disc golf things, basically.
Yeah, and so I guess my only follow-up to all of that would be, selfishly, for myself and the rest of the disc golf fans, do you think we're going to see her doing any more photography, disc golf photography? I mean, she established herself as one of the best disc golf photographers that we've seen in years, and we have a lot of very talented people, of course, still. But is that? Do you think that's in the cards for her ever again?
I would say probably not. I don't think you can rule anything out necessarily, but it was just taking up so much of her time. Like she was a one woman show, so
Mm-hmm.
she was shooting the men or the women all day, all morning, the men all afternoon, and then she would edit all night long. So she
Mm-hmm.
would pull, probably 12-hour days, and then have she would, I mean, she wouldn't go to sleep until 1 a.m. and then would have to get up at 8 and do it all again. So it was just kind of wearing her out. But also just she was in a place where that was worth it to her because she wanted to help disc golf grow and to help those players' brands grow by giving them photos and the pro tours and all of that. But now the pro tour has other assets that they have, so she doesn't feel this like guilt or like necessity to have to be that person. So I don't think that she will, but that's her decision, and we'll have to see if anything changes. But I think for now she doesn't really get her camera out that often anymore, actually. Come to think
Okay.
of it.
And again,
But
that's why I say it was selfish, in that she's always done such incredible work, as you just
yeah,
said. And
she's
so no one would ever be mad like, oh, Alyssa's out covering this. Nobody would be disappointed in that, because she has done such a great job. So pivoting briefly, I did get a text kind of randomly, and it was, of course, a welcome text out of Willie this not too long ago, Mr. Fierce documentary. And I guess so and somebody just on the board followed up with too. From your perspective, where does that stand? What is either happening or not happening? What needs to happen? If you're still with us, we might
I
have lost
am
you.
sorry. I
Okay. Oh, you're
just
good.
got a text. I got a text from Wilson, so I wanted to read it and make sure what I could say
Okay.
since we got on that.
Fair enough. What
Um,
what can you share? What do you know?
well, things have been very bad with the documentary.
Okay.
Um, just some logistical things, I guess. Um, but when we decided to put it on DGN, um, there were contracts in place and a lot more parties involved,
Mm.
myself and Wilson as partners, and then uh, another man named Jeff, who was like our distribution or not distribution consultant, and then now with DGN as the distributors. So now we have like four parties involved, and communication, logistics, contracts, stuff like that. Things didn't go how Wilson and I had hoped or wanted. Um, and yeah, I don't know how much of this, like, it's so funny doing interviews with you, Terry, because like I would tell you any and all of this in person,
Okay.
but then I remember that there's a lot of people watching this. Um,
No,
but
I don't want any. We
yeah,
never want anyone
yeah,
to say anything they shouldn't say, and if it's stuff that's not appropriate for the podcast, and you want to just tell me in
Yeah.
Call you
confidence
tomorrow,
someday,
I'm
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, but yeah. So
yeah,
unfortunately, though, I mean, I guess the long and short of it is, there's been more hurdles and obstacles and struggles than what you anticipated and or signed up for. I mean,
the business side usually sucks.
I mean, I feel like what I could say is basically it's Wilson's baby. It's Wilson's baby, this movie. He put his heart and soul into it and so much of his time and effort. And it's not DGN's baby. They don't, it's content that they can put on their channel, and they did so happily under a paywall. And but it's not their baby. And so they didn't treat it as Wilson would have. And, now there's contractual things that are being talked about, and we're trying to get our baby back, basically, so that we can do with it what we would like to do with it. And I feel like that's what I'll say, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't want to burn any bridges, but
of course not.
It's just been a unfortunate handling of Wilson's baby, I would say.
Speaking of, he had a real baby, a more literal baby recently. Of course, congratulations to him and his whole family. I know that has also transpired since the documentary. So
super cute too.
Yeah, awesome. Okay,
super cute.
So one of the things I'll say about the Austin Open is I felt like both of our winners looked really good in the trophy. Honestly, when was the last time you had a cowboy hat on, or when was the last time you owned a cowboy hat? You grew up in Texas. You had to have had one at some point.
Yeah. I don't remember. My memory is funny. Like, I feel like I have a really good memory, but for my childhood, I don't really have strong memories. So I wouldn't say that I didn't have one, but I don't remember. So it's been a long time since I put one on, but I was talking about it recently. I don't know if I was like really serious about like, oh, I need to own a cowboy hat, but just being in Texas and like every place you go out to, people have these hats on, whether it's like a traditional cowboy hat or not. But they have like these big hats, and I'm like, man, I forgot my hat, and just like, oh, I need a hat to fit in. And I actually like mentioned it. I was like, man, they should make that, because on the scorecard, like the logo for the event, a hat, like the scorecard even has a little hat. And I was like, man, they should make this trophy a hat. And somebody was laughing. They were like, they did. And I was like, oh, like this year, like for the women too. And so that was a cool little surprise. I know last year it was like a belt buckle. So I got the hat displayed, and it doesn't fit me, so I won't be wearing it, unfortunately. But I have it displayed right by last year I won Texas State, so I had the belt buckle, and now I have the hat right by it. So it's funny. It like looks like a little.
In a few years, they're going to give out chaps and a lasso, and you're going to be set.
Little spurs.
Yeah, spurs.
Yeah, you'll get the whole ensemble. And that's exactly what I was thinking as you were talking about the hat. I was thinking about you holding up. I think you and I got a picture. You holding up the belt buckle last year over there at Texas State. Obviously, a very on point, on brand trophy there. Of course, because it's the internet. I know. I'll even roll my eyes as I say it, but. Mixed reactions. Some people, of course, love it, and then I see an entire thread about disc golf trophies are so stupid. Whatever. What is your take on things that I'll say are not traditional? The terrible person throwing, or just a generic mug, which I know you've turned into some planners. So tell us about how you feel about these kind of more unique trophies. Should we see more of them?
I think that's the direction we should head for sure. I think that they should be unique, so that when you think of that tournament, not only do you think of past champions, you think of the course, you think of all of these things, right? You should also think of that trophy, kind of like in ball golf. The Masters has the green. Even if you don't follow ball golf, I don't really follow ball golf, but I know that you get a green jacket if you win the Masters. And so I think that just adds to it. And so, yeah, I can think of a few disc golf tournaments that have really, really cool, unique trophies. And I think that those are, special and memorable, like I can remember the Greater Hartford Open, like you win a sword. You literally win a sword.
Yeah.
And like, I won the Music City Open, years ago. I don't even know, 2014, 15. Uh, and I won a guitar,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I
and
think they
so
had a
did
guitar
Matty
last
O.
year.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah. A
yeah.
couple years ago, they had a
Yeah,
guitar again. Yep.
totally. So I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it should be. I mean, if you've won an event, chances are you have either a plaque or like a vase or something
Mm-hmm.
or of some sort, and it's like, come on, let's branch out and let's try something new. I think so. I'm all for it, but
Yeah. I mean,
everyone's gonna
similarly,
have different opinions.
you think about Barsby also winning over at PCS Sula last year and what he got there. If
What did he get?
uh,
The helmet?
the helmet, yeah, the Viking helmet, and then
Oh,
the sword
cool,
or the
Yep.
yeah, that went with it. And then I think the
cool.
you know, in Australia for a few years, the didgeridoos
Oh yeah, I
that
have a
people have.
didgeridoo.
Yeah, like how
Yeah,
unique, you know, and of course when
so
you go to
Yep,
cool.
Alyssa just mentioned that on the board. Didgeridoo from
oh, there you
Australia
go,
Open.
perfect. Yeah,
That's
see, I was
funny.
on the right track. I was thinking about the one I've seen with over at Nate and Val's house. Like those are the, you know, some of the most unique, especially when they're pulling in that regional or countrywide culture or whatever it is to
Hmm.
tie it together. In this case, the state of
Totally.
Texas and the hats. But yeah, yeah, I love it. Of course, you know, it's the funny part is we have people on the internet complaining about trophies they're not even receiving and will never receive, but they want to complain about them anyway.
Wow.
So again, it's the internet. So I understand.
I only have one more
Sometimes it
question.
be like that.
I only have one more question personally. It was brought up on the board. Obviously, you have the passion and you have the fierce. Are we going to see more discs from Paige Pierce?
Yes,
Do we have
so
more
it's
discs
on
coming?
the yes, definitely, definitely. Um, and yeah, I was just kind of thinking about that yesterday, what I wanted the next disc to be called. We have plans of like what it will fly like and what it's going to be, but I was just kind of thinking of names yesterday a little bit. Um, yeah. So yes, definitely. I'm shooting for something similar to like a Surge SS,
Mm.
like a medium speed driver, but still kind of not like a wide rim disc like a nuke would be, but some like smaller rim driver, maybe speed 11, 12, somewhere in there. And yeah, very glidey and get the full S flight out of it, not something like meat hooky.
You're
Is
thinking.
that?
Oh, go ahead,
I
Jeff.
was just gonna say real quick. Is that just by your description? Is that Thrasher ish? Is that some? Is that would
Too
too flippy?
flippy, the
Okay.
Thrasher. I want like a Surge SS, like
Okay.
more stability, torque resistant, so you can hit it hard and it'll turn, but then it'll still get that finish to the left, so you can really get the full S flight out of it. And I think as you know, as you're progressing as a disc golf player and everything's going left and then you finally start to get stuff to go straight, and that's a good step. And then the
Mm-hmm.
next step is like when you can learn how to get that S flight. That is just like such a magical feeling when you get the full flight of it and you're just like you feel like a little kid, with just joy. And I think that's what I want to try to help everyone to get, is to have a disc that they can do that, but also selfishly, like I Surge SS is an awesome disc and I want to create something similar to that. Yeah,
Makes perfect
it's
sense.
yeah.
Are you going with some sort of theme for your naming convention? You've got fierce and passion, which seem almost emotion based. Or are you
Hmm.
just, or are these just words for you that you feel fit your personality, or are you going for some sort of theme? I guess is my question.
Yeah, somewhat, but I'm not super strong on that. Like if something else just
Mhm.
hits me and it's like it feels right, then I'm gonna go with that. But Discraft for sure wants to stick with a theme. Um, and yeah, I think that's kind of what the thought was, is like that things that I feel on the disc golf course, and that way I can look down at the disc and it says passion, and I kind of remind myself like, yeah, remember this is your passion, and or when I'm putting and it's like, hey, be fierce. Don't be timid on this putt right now. You got to be fierce if you want to hit this putt, stuff like that. So, yeah, I think it will probably fall as an emotion somewhat. Now it's just kind of what which direction do I want to go with that? Because I think to be an athlete, you kind of have to embody so many different emotions out there on the course.
The confidence.
I like it.
Confidence.
That's a lot of.
It's a lot of letters.
There's not really many names left at this point. There's
I know there's so many discs and manufacturers.
Yeah, one of the things that you touched on, therefore, it was out in the ether. That's the word, ether. You mentioned that you weren't consuming any alcohol. Is that a weekend work mentality? Do you feel like you're taking a break right now, just kind of generally? I mean, is there an overall plan or anything of that nature? I mean, because I think of everybody, like, I just randomly said, hey, I'm not going to drink in November. I just said,
right.
Yeah. That was the plan I went with, and I held to it, which was tough, going to some events in Arizona and some other things. Long-term, short-term, does it matter? Is there any other agenda there?
It's just something I want to try for myself and see how I feel. I know that, especially as I'm getting older, you start to feel hangovers more, which is not a good feeling. Kids at home.
Yeah, so we've heard.
Maybe you think you want to drink, but hangovers really do suck. But honestly, it's like something that I don't know, we all struggle with from time to time, and whether it's like you want to fit in, you want to seem cool, everybody else is doing it, I'll take one too. It's, oh, we're celebrating, oh, I had a bad day. It's like there's always a reason to drink. There's always a reason to drink. And somehow, like, when it's like you're celebrating something, it's just like a natural thing is like, oh, let's go get drinks. And it's like the way that I live my life, I'm always celebrating something. Like something good is always happening,
Which is great.
And so, like, yeah, except for when you pair it with alcohol and then you just are drinking all the time and you're like, why is this what I'm choosing to do? It doesn't even make me feel good. So I think for me, it's just kind of like realizing that it doesn't have to be like that. And yeah, I think I've seen alcoholism very close to me, and it's not something I want to fall into. And I don't know if, I would consider that for myself necessarily, but I think that it could happen. And I just don't want that for myself or my future or anything like that. So, yeah, just realizing that there's more to life than that, than celebrating like that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and again, I say that, and I'm so on board with you, and it wouldn't matter if I agreed or not. I happen to, but I'm so on board with you. And Johnny and I are very much cut from the similar cloth. Like, we could each drink for 30 straight days and then not drink for 3 straight years. And like, to either of us, it just doesn't matter. We can take or leave alcohol on any given day or night or week or whatever. And obviously everyone goes about it differently, and that's totally fine with whatever's your best limit. So for us, I don't know. I guess I kind of, maybe it resonates or it sits a little easier, that I totally understand. There's clearly no judgment here.
The last really bad hangover I had was your fault, actually.
Oh, okay.
So
well, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking the
GBO after you won. We all went to Firehouse. No.
Oh my gosh, that was years ago.
That was the last really bad hangover.
When my dad was there.
Yeah,
I don't know, but
your dad was there.
I remember walking in, and they were shot skis, and people were just handing them to me.
That was like 16. Holy cow! Yeah. If that was your last bad hangover, then you're doing all right.
Yeah, I mean,
clearly, I would say so.
Yeah, but I would say so. That was the last bad hangover I had, because the whole next day I was wrecked, and Terry had to drive home.
Yeah, Brickyard 20 or whatever that was back in those days. Yeah, Brickyard.
We were all celebrating your win. It was a great night.
Yes, I do. I very much recall that as well, actually. So, we all had a good time. That's for sure. All right, Paige. Well, I think we talked about damn near everything anybody could want to know. Well, for now. I mean, and if it's not there, they should check the documentary somewhere. We also know that's out there. So is there, before we let you go, is there any sponsors, shout outs? Where should people follow you? How can they support you? Those types of things. Give us the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so my sponsors for 2023 are Discraft, Grip Equipment, OTB, ADO Disc Sports, and also Whale Sacks. And I have one more that is I have a meeting with tomorrow. That's a probably signing a contract, so that'll be announced soon. And then yeah, I just want to give a huge shout out to Schaefer. I mean, yeah, what's it called? Schaefer Sports Management. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Blake, he has been a godsend for me. He, took on my finances basically. And then he was like, you know what? I'm going to start a sports agency. He, in our finance meetings, he's like, is there anything else that I could help you with? Like anything else that keeps you up at night, that makes you worry? And I'm like, talking about contracts and stuff. And he's like, 2 weeks later, he's like, you know what? I'm going to start an agency. And ever since, like, just, he's just awesome. Like, just a helper, just a
Mm-hmm.
helper, wants to help everyone. And he's made my disc golf life so much easier. Just not having to worry about anything, and just bridging that gap between, uh, you know, what I think I deserve and what I do deserve and what I'm getting, and, saying no for me or saying yes for me, anything, literally anything. He's just been on top of it, him and his team. And so huge shout out to Schaefer Sports Management, and also just helping me grow disc golf outside of our already disc golf bubble. And yeah, my Patreons, I feel like they're always there for me, always jumping in on there. And just the disc golf tourists that came out, they're sending me messages. It's fun, like getting messages after every round and little inside jokes and stuff like that, and checking in, and um, all the friends that we made there, and my friends and family. I feel like, uh, yeah, I'm just have a lot to be grateful for. So it's kind of hard to just say every single person on here,
No,
but
you
um,
you are you are very well loved and supported, and understandably so. And yeah, I feel like we could go on maybe another day. We could have an extended podcast simply on the disc golf tourists, and it would be great to continue.
Or we
to
could go
spread.
on her podcast.
Yeah, we could continue to spread that message all
oh,
around the world
maybe.
with everything that you're doing. So
Oh yeah, check out Approachable. That I think our first episode launched last week, and the next episode is maybe this week. I need to check into that. But Approachable season 2 is um live, and episodes are dropping every other week. So check
sweet.
that out for sure.
I knew that. That's why I plugged
Thank
that.
you
Yeah,
guys.
good job. Good job. We
Thank
got you.
you,
We
Johnny
got you.
B. Thank
got
you
you.
very much.
Whatever you need, we got you as well. All right, Paige. Of course, congratulations yet again on the victory this weekend. We're looking forward to another awesome year of disc golf in 2023, and we know that you're going to be right there as one of those people that are going to be providing the good shots, but also some great finishes. And as always, we wish you the best, and looking forward to when I see you in person, which might not be still for a few weeks.
Thank you. Thanks
I'm
for
doing
having
some
me on,
stuff,
guys.
Always.
All
You're
right.
always welcome.
Have a good night, Paige. See ya.
Good night, Paige.
Paige Pierce, ladies and gentlemen, 5-time world champ. Still going to be hunting that 6th.
She's still hunting the 6th, and she is, she's building a Texas outfit and victory trophies.
Yeah.
So, wow. She's pretty amazing, honestly. It was funny. I felt early on in our interview, I'm like, this doesn't feel like an interview. It really feels like therapy for me.
Yeah, well, it's catch up.
It really is. It's always awesome to have her on, because I feel like we can really get to a lot with her that maybe other people don't necessarily get a chance to talk with her about. And a lot of that is your relationship with her in general being so close, because you've been on the road for so long.
Yeah, it's I was sent. So I may have been wrong. It might have been the 2017. So I was just sent a well, it looks like a pretty safe post. No. This is of Paige and a couple others, including Simon Lizotte, back from 2017. However, that wasn't. I don't think that was the year that you were referencing. This was the next year. Nonetheless.
I was so hungover I couldn't come the next year.
Yeah. Jared, we appreciate.
They wouldn't let me back.
Yes. Some good times. GBO. I thought what you were maybe going to say was within the last couple of years when she's been in town for the Ben Askren Funky Farms, and there's been some gatherings for that as well. Needless to say, alcohol involved or not, there's always a good time.
Anytime Paige is around, it's fun.
I know. I was thinking of some times in Nantucket, like so many of my memories from traveling around the country and even around the world. 9 out of 10 times Paige is at that given event, whether she was winning or playing in it, or there was some off the course socializing. Always a good time.
MPO.
Oh yeah, they played too.
Been at Austin.
They played too.
Getting his first Elite Series win, Mr. Gannon Burr takes this one down from the chase card. That's 2 events in a row that the chase card winner is wrecking post-production week after week. Don't feel bad for Jomez. Just feel good for Gatekeeper. It doesn't happen very often, and so the fact that they get a little bit of the limelight now and again is going to be great. And hopefully, I don't want to say hopefully we'll see more of that, because I think the winner is going to come off of both cards for the rest of the season. I think we'll see maybe 1 or 2 more chase card wins, but most of the time, I bet you it's going to be that lead card. This course was unique in that, in some of the ways it was able to separate. Second place, Simon Lizotte. Simon, as he had said on the broadcast, we overheard him say that he had, I think, shot 18 down on the back 9 all weekend and 2 down on the front 9s all weekend.
Oh.
And the back 9 is more scoreable, hands down, but only 2 down on the front 9 is not the way you need to go, because I'm looking at the scores and a lot of people are 3 or 4 down, or you're Austin Turner and tore up the front 9 and were 7 under. But Simon Lizotte playing good golf, kind of sneaking up almost, I don't want to say sneaking up out of nowhere that final round, but we didn't see him and we didn't talk much about him. And it felt like he was far enough ahead of people that everybody was going to catch him. And just nobody did. And so he came in at 20, and we all had to wait. And I know, there's discussion of how come we didn't see Simon and cameras and this and that. And, I think they split off from Simon to go cover another card at one point who was doing hotter. I think it was maybe Austin Turner that they split off to go cover Austin Turner. I'm not exactly sure on the numbers. I wasn't involved in the production, but I do know that they covered so many people. They had said that there was 15 people within 3 strokes, or 18?
Something like that. It was even more competitive than
Waco.
Just the weekend before at Waco, yeah.
Third place, a name that we've been saying a lot, James Proctor. Tied with Calvin Heimberg, another name we've been saying a lot. So those guys finished out your podium. Proctor, just in general, having a really good start to the season. Not a surprise for some of us that have been around for a while. The dude was rated 1040 for a while, was more of a regional player, went out on tour. His rating plummeted. I think he's at 1022 or something now. But he has the skills. Hands down, he's a name that you definitely want to keep an eye on. Fifth place, a name we haven't said in a long, long time. Austin Turner. For those of you that don't know, Austin is a world champion. Junior under 16 or under 18?
I think that year he won 15 and under.
15 and under. Okay.
Which would have been 2014?
Something like that.
In Michigan?
Yes, in Michigan.
I don't know. I'll have to check my video blogs.
Check your video blogs, because I think you interviewed him.
Yeah.
But yeah, Austin Turner. I felt like this course, I don't want to say it favored a lefty, because I thought it was a pretty fair course in general, but it definitely didn't hurt a lefty. I'll say that. Austin Turner, 5th place. Tied for 6th place, we have a big tie. Mason Ford, who again was a name that we didn't really talk about. You didn't hear him talk about him at all on the broadcast. He shot a 10 under final round to jump himself up 16 places. Ezra Aderhold shot up 6th place, or I think it's 6 or 4. I'm blind and I can't see because it's so small, and I'm 45 now.
Jeez.
It's jumped up 4 spots. No, that little tiny number under the tied for 6 is hard to see here from this angle. And 6th place as well, Eagle McMahon. Eagle, he was in it up until the back 9 of the final day, when he just had 2 he had a bogey and a double bogey, which really knocked him out of contention. There was thoughts if he could birdie out that he'd have a chance, but that's really difficult on this course, as you all know. As well as 6 plates, Vaino Makala. And then we'll round up the top 10, even though there's 3 of them. Kyle Klein, who continues to shoot really well. Corey Ellis, Una Heinonen, and Paul Macbeth. Same thing with Paul. Paul looked like he was lurking for a while. Got to hole 15 where he had a double bogey, and then he went par. You know, woulda, shoulda, coulda. He might have been able to get podium had he birdied out 15, 16, 17, 18. But again, that's a huge, huge undertaking on those holes because there was a lot of talk this weekend about the course. Day 1, I feel like the internet hated it. And it was really windy. There were holes that nobody was able to birdie. Hole 6, it felt like the wind was just against them. It's a 315-foot, I don't want to say horseshoe hyzer, but it's very close to that. You would need to get it up and tight and miss a tree. And the way the wind was blowing, I don't believe there was a single birdie on the first day. Maybe one by MPO. And so there were a few holes that the wind just was really fighting them, and a lot of people didn't like it. I feel like as the wind died down, as it tends to do, the scores heated up. We saw, like I said, 9s, 10s, 7s out there on the final day. People started to learn the course. They started to get to know it. It was a brand new course that they probably only had 2 or 3 practice rounds on. And practice rounds are a little different, obviously, than when you're playing. Things tighten up. Your focus changes from a practice round versus the competitive rounds. But I feel like towards the end of the tournament, people started to definitely warm up to the course. So I personally liked it from the very beginning. I think that it challenged different things, this course, than we see a lot of. I saw one of the complaints was random OB was the word I heard. And I kept thinking, I don't believe there was a random OB out there. I felt like, specifically for MPO, the OB was usually placed in landing zones. For better or worse, you either try to fight over the OB and skip off a green, which we saw a lot of people fail to be able to do that, or you have to play it short. And I don't believe that the viewers necessarily found that fun watching players lay up.
Yeah, it definitely was a different mentality this weekend, I think. And to kind of back up, as I was just quickly looking at hole 6 during round number 1, there were just 4 birdies.
Okay, there were 4.
3 of them were from deep in circle 2.
Okay,
and then the closest one was just 27 feet. And then we saw a few more, obviously, in rounds 2 and 3. Like you said, things started to pick up a little bit more when we saw them. But yeah, it was just that. It was a new course on the tour. And whether it was a distaste for the course or it was the conditions that then added into a course that they hadn't fallen in love with, or a combination of all those things, everybody had a slightly different opinion. And then, of course, what the viewers have as an experience versus what the players have as an experience, sometimes those align or don't, which is exactly kind of what we're seeing on our board.
And I'm a diehard defender of the production crew, the live broadcast, the cameramen, 100%. But I didn't necessarily feel on days 1 and maybe day 2 that the course was highlighted enough. That I think we could have done more to sell the course. And not necessarily like convince people to like it, but even just show people more whole previews, more whole graphics. I felt that could have been out there to let people know exactly what we're doing. Looks like they heavily used drone shots, which I thought worked pretty well on this course for the most part. Ian, who did not Ian Anderson, but Ian Lunger, who did the directing, and Mo, who always does the producing for the most part of the Elite Series events. I just felt like they maybe could have highlighted the course a little bit more, being a brand new course. Now, again, part of it, like you said, is as people learn the course throughout the weekend, it becomes more familiar. You kind of start to get a real feel for it. The other thing I think kind of hurt this course was just the look of the course. It looked like kind of, in some spots, it looked like a rundown golf course. And it's March in Texas. I get it. There's, they don't get a lot of rain as it is, but They're probably not getting a ton of use on that course maybe quite yet, and it's probably not in its final shape that it's going to be when it's a golf course. And I feel like with a brand new course, it really almost has to be tip top in order to sell people, because we've seen in the past people that viewers, whenever there's a new course, it feels like there's complaints about the course. I think the only exception I've noticed is the Preserve, which seemed like everyone almost loved instantaneously. But we saw OTB originally wasn't loved. I believe Portland, some people didn't love it when it was out there. And it's all about learning the course. So I felt like the golf course probably, if it would have looked a little nicer, a little greener in spots, maybe a little bit more foliage on some of the trees, that it might have helped to sell the course. And is that necessary? No, but it helps out as a viewer. I think it helps you look at a course and go like, that's a pretty course. That's where I want to be.
Now,
and this, I don't feel like this course necessarily did that.
I'll take some of that philosophy and say that it could also potentially be applied to scores. And if you are unsure of a course and you really haven't fully made up your mind, let's just say you don't know if you're in love with it or not, and then you see our sports best struggling on it, then it's almost easy to be like, oh, well, yeah, that course isn't great, and here's why. I think as a viewer, you could fall into that trap and be like, see, even the best in the world are struggling here. It must not be a good course. But then, and conversely, I'll say if the average score was 7, 8, 10 under during day one, it feels as if maybe people would have.
Because those are the scores we're used to seeing.
Yeah. So when you don't see that, it's kind of like, when the non-attractive person says something, and then the very attractive person says the same thing that's equally as stupid, but all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, that's
just
right.
Like this broadcast.
Yeah, exactly. Trust me.
I'm not
every week we deal with this.
We're not going to say who's who here.
But it's just in a you're affiliating or attributing that, and I'm just guessing that could be something to do with it. But you have of the 3 rounds, you had your worst overall scoring, which I think averaged 1.77 over par for the course for the day. Mm-hmm. Not a scoring that you're used to seeing. Yeah, it averaged 1.77 over par.
That's Northwood Black numbers right there. Maybe even worse.
No. I think that's even more. But then it comes back on day 2, averaged negative 2.81. So what is that, a 4.5 stroke swing? And then on Sunday, it was kind of in that similar neighborhood at 2.56. Again, they figured it out. The course played easier. The conditions, all of those things probably came into play. But if they came out and averaged super hot right off the bat, I just feel like the immediate response might have had a different twist to it. So it is what it is. In that sense, I'm not saying that the course design was terrible or great, or I barely paid attention to it, to be honest with you. But I'm just thinking of the overarching response and what you see. And it's easier for people to bandwagon, oh, this guy said this about it, and they immediately jump on it. We've gone through this before. There's course designers, and then there's people that think they're course designers. So there's an element of that at the end of the day too. So
last year, Northwood Black averaged 3.1 over par and 3.2 over par.
Yeah, so, I was going to say I thought it was close to like 4 or 5 over. Yeah.
I thought it was 1 to 2, but
1,000 rated was shooting 4 and 5 over still. But nonetheless, yeah, that's some of it. So
overall, I think the course ended up selling well. It had really, really good turnout for spectators. I think that is a big deal. If I had to take a random guess, we're going to see this course back out on tour. I think Jeff had said something about trying to get the other staple at Austin, the Roy G course, which everyone seems to love, trying to maybe integrate that as well as this course. So we don't have just 3 rounds on this course. Maybe we'll do a 2-and-2 event, but who knows? That's a whole year ahead. We just finished this course, and I was happy with it, and I didn't have anything to do with it.
Well, I feel like it's too soon. You're mentioning staples.
It is a staple on the tour.
Ouch.
Speaking of staples,
some heads up golf out there.
Heads down. One of 5 or 9 staples. I'm not exactly sure, but Catch Cam Dave. Everybody has heard it, seen it. The funny part is, I've watched the shot. I've not listened to it. I do not want to listen to it.
It's a thud.
It's a thud, and I don't need to. For those of you that maybe
thud life, bro,
are hiding under a rock, unlike what Catch Cam Dave was.
He wishes he would have been under a rock.
Felt like probably a rock hitting him. Eagle McMahon on hole 4 threw a giant grenade over the top and caught Dave, who was working with Gatekeeper Media, right square on the crown of his head. Like right at the very top. Right in the very... I mean, you couldn't have squared it up any better. And it bounced off his head another 20 feet or so behind him. He obviously goes down. He's bleeding. He's probably... as tiny of a little hat as it was. He's probably lucky he had his hat on. They stopped the tournament for 30 minutes. Well, everybody kind of sat down. They got an ambulance just to make sure everything was okay. Thank the disc golf gods that everything was good. He needed obviously 5 staples or 9. I'm not exactly sure. It's probably in this this thing. If you want to read more about it, you can go to Catch Cam Dave on Instagram, catch_cam_Dave. And you can read, and he writes an entire thing that he's glad to be able to laugh about it. But in all seriousness, he wants everyone to explain. So he goes through and explains some things. I don't want to read the whole thing. Go out to his page by all means. He's also, so he worked with Gatekeeper this weekend as their catch cam, but he has his own media company as well called Heiser Media, which is based out of the Northeast. So if you want to go to Heiser Media, go take a look at that. Go, I think it's even on Instagram at Heiser Media, just as it sounds, just how it's spelled for us. Everybody kind of knows Heiser. But what an unfortunate thing. My understanding is everyone was asking, well, how did he not know it was coming? Don't they have earpieces and things like that? Yes, 100% they do. And he was warned. He was told that it was coming over the top, and he thought he was in a safe position. He thought, because he was about 30 to 35 feet past the basket, but Eagle juiced it and went deep of the basket. And it's tough with a grenade. It's not the most accurate shot. It's going to stop. It's going to stick wherever it lands, unfortunately. But distance control isn't always great, because once it gets up in the air that high, the wind can do a lot of different things with it. And Dave literally thought he was back far enough. He was waiting for it to come down, and it came down and got him. And so he went to Eagle after the round and said he's good. Don't sweat it. I think he even said that a little bit before. That was some words before they restarted. Eagle was clearly shaken up about it, as anyone would be. I don't know what else there is to say about it other than it was dumb luck, dumb unluck, dumb bad luck that it caught him the way it did. And we can hope that it doesn't happen again. There are some precautions that people can take if they're interested. If you're going to be a catch cam, they've been floating around. There's little plastic inserts you can put inside your cap that will help distribute the thing. There are special baseball caps you can wear that actually have the built-in, almost like a plastic shield built into it that helps distribute it. Obviously, if you want, you can just wear a helmet, a bike helmet or something.
Yeah, I was just going to say a rock climbing helmet or that comes to mind, a snowboarding helmet, like
those
your rollerblade helmet. You haven't had that on in a few years.
A couple decades, probably.
Exactly. So get your rollerblade helmet out.
Do you have any takes on this
Yes.
as far as what?
First of all, I'll start with, of course, the only reason we could make any reference or any form of light of it is because he's perfectly okay, and he has stated as much. Hence, my terrible puns leading into it. So good to hear that, of course. I mean, that's a given. It's good to hear that right on the spot. Like, there wasn't a lot of, as we know, there's not a lot of, continuation to this story from a health perspective. So that, of course, is first and foremost. And so super glad to hear that. Second of all, he's in a spot Now, granted, I'm off and on throw cam if I am out filming. I guess I do stand out in the middle of the field sometimes when I'm doing the sideline reporting, so to speak. But I would say this. Think about the tens of thousands of shots that we've seen thrown in the last few years of just live coverage, and then think about who's been hit in the head. It's been, that we know of, it's been one in tens of thousands of shots.
One cameraman, and there is note of one spectator when Ricky took someone and hit them.
Correct. A few years ago. Also in Texas?
No.
Is that Pennsylvania? Wherever he was.
Yeah.
Might have been I don't know. Year or two ago. I do recall that. Again, it is incredibly rare for it to happen. And I'm not trying to downplay it, but it's not that common. And just as grenades themselves aren't even that common of a shot. All right. Thank you. Sorry. So, of course, you always have to have your head on a swivel. You have to be paying attention whether you're a catch cam or whether you're a spectator or a fellow player out on the course. All of those scenarios. I don't think there's any overarching crazy mechanism and or thing that needs to take place, administrative or otherwise, or whatever you want to call it, procedural thing that needs to take place. If you want to do any of those precautions, where one of the things you just described, I'm all for it. I know that I will not be, let's put it this way, I will not be equipping any of my potential cameraman with said helmet. Call me heartless or ruthless or just a terrible boss or whatever, contractor, whatever you want to say. I will not be doing that. However, if any one of them wanted to show up with a helmet or a hat or something of this nature, I clearly would fully support that just as much. So, no, I mean, he was behind the basket. Because let's put it this way, and here's what maybe my biggest take is, because of course you see a lot of people saying, why is he so close to the basket? Tell me the right spot where Eagle could throw a grenade and or throw a hyzer shot, especially with his power, where you're perfectly safe.
Clearly everyone
could have been 50 feet from the pin.
Everyone saw it because the DGN cameraman was to the left. If you're looking back down the fairway, he was to the left of the gatekeeper guy, so he was able to turn and see it, capture it, better or worse. But it wouldn't shock me if that, where our guy was standing, and I don't know the trees above him at all, so I mean, because I only can see level, if it could have gotten the DGN cameraman as well. Because like I said, you throw a grenade up into the wind, that could push 20, 30 feet any direction, depending on the wind. It could have come down on the DGN guy who was 50 feet from the basket, as you said, and off to the fairway right, looking back left. I don't necessarily think it has anything to do, in this instance, of where they were standing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is my long and short of it. I agree. Someone says, first of all, head injuries are no joke. No. Of course they're not. I don't think any, I would suggest as such. And also, the comment that was just made about how I don't think a major overreaction needs to happen, but safety shouldn't be ignored. Yeah, I think that's a great way to summarize what I'm trying to say. Again, how often have we seen this happen?
Very little, but think about...
I'm more likely to trip...
Which another cameraman did.
I'm more likely to trip and twist my ankle, which I've done countless times. Not countless. I've done more than a few times to trip and twist my ankle on some little hole, man-made or otherwise, on a course, simply just walking down a fairway. I've done that plenty of times.
Did you see how the gimbal man fell?
I did not.
So, it was a few holes later.
Isaac? Did he go down?
It might have been. I'm not sure who was running the gimbal in the afternoon.
Oh, okay.
But they were walking off the fairway, or off the tee, and he's following someone as they do.
I did see
and then
that.
he goes, he catches this thing and he goes ass over tea kettle backwards.
Yeah, and he tripped on one of the marketing assets.
On one of the marketing assets. I mean, you do what you do. But think about this. That disc. Why didn't it kill him? PDGA specs require these discs to be a certain flexibility. And does it hamper or limit our throwing ability? Could we throw further if these discs were less flexible, or if they were sharper, or if they think 100% probably true. But thanks to PDGA specs, there is a good chance that this didn't more severely hurt him.
Correct. I mean, that's speculative to some degree, of course. But yes,
of course,
we do have standards in place, which is your point.
Yeah.
We have standards in place that they meet certain flexibility standards and pliability, flexibility standards, and that they can only be so sharp to a certain degree, and then all fitting within certain constraints of rim to weight ratios and so on and so forth. Those are all part of our overall technical standards. And so, yes, that could have certainly played a factor into it, where a sharper disc at 210 grams absolutely could have done more damage. There's no doubt about that. To what degree, hopefully we'll never find out. But
no,
you are right though that is a reason why we do have some technical standards in place.
Safety.
Partially for safety, and really, if you're new here, that's also part of the reason why for so many years in Japan, they had a limiting factor of 150 gram discs, or 150 class as it was called for many years. They just felt as if the safety was even more paramount there, and you had a more highly congested territory where a lot of the courses were played on. The few courses they did have, highly congested, so on and so forth. And that was just an additional precaution that from day one, or early on at least, that Japan and players in Japan had taken on as one of the precautions. Let's face it, if you lined up anyone and said, hey, would you rather have that disc weigh 176 grams that came in on his head, or 144 grams, they're going to hurt nonetheless. But you take the 144 gram given a choice, you take a 144 gram disc as opposed to the 175 or 176 gram disc. So.
And Tim says, it's amazing Eagles shot missed all the trees, too, coming down. Oh, agreed, because if you're listening to this, you play disc golf. So I guarantee you've said this exact thing. How the hell did my disc get all the way in there without hitting a tree?
Yeah.
And it takes me 3 shots to get out.
Exactly.
Because you go in 120 feet without touching a tree on a shank, but then you turn around and look and you're thinking, there's no way my disc could get through here. I couldn't do that in 1,000 shots get through this, and my disc ended up 120 feet in the woods. So it's funny that you say that, but I feel like that happens to all of us. We all manage to throw it in the woods deeper than we can get out of the woods. So it's just ironic, maybe.
Yeah. So nonetheless, I feel for him. I feel for the entire situation, Eagle, the entire crew, everybody holding your breath for a moment, and then it does open up, as the board is largely talked about as well, it does open up a bigger conversation about various liabilities, whether they be on Disc Golf Pro Tour, who's helping host the event, an event sponsor, in this case, a presenting sponsor and a Lone Star. They've got a lot of money. A PDGA. Now, every event that's sanctioned from the PDGA is automatically, if you are sanctioned, you automatically have an insurance policy. That's part of your sanctioning. It is, if your local guy is going out and running a C tier tomorrow, when he or she runs that C tier tomorrow, there's automatically, I don't know if it's a 1 in 2 million. I think it's a $1 in $2 million policy, $1/2 million policy that is immediately, I don't want to just say assumed or implied. It's immediately granted. Now, if you want that piece of paper spelling out or adding additionally insured to that, that's when you pay to the PDGA an additional amount. So I'll give you a very real world example of me sanctioning the Skyline Classic, which is available for registration as we speak. The Skyline Classic coming up in a few weeks. The second I sanction that as a B tier or C tier, but it's a B tier, it automatically has coverage. Unfortunately, a lot of municipalities will say, yeah, cool. That's cool you have coverage, but we need a piece of paper not only saying that you have coverage, but on that piece of paper saying you have coverage, we'd also like to be included in the insurance policy. We'd like to be included and listed as additionally insured. So at that point, I pay the PDGA an extra $50. I list, in this case, the Kenosha County Parks or Kenosha County, and they're additionally listed on that insurance policy. And that is then presented to them. They want us, most municipalities will demand that is on file before you even host your event. Some don't care. A lot of them do. They're trying to, it's a CYA, right? Cover your ass. That's exactly what they're trying to do. And they don't want to take my word for it. Like, yeah, it's sanctioned. You're covered, I swear. They want it spelled out on a piece of paper. And then that's exactly what you're paying for into the PDGA. Certificate of insurance, as Zach says. Lots of places need them on file. In fact, that's exactly what the parks guy said to me. He said, you're all good to go. We just need that certificate, which I have already been emailed, so I'll forward on to them. So there is insurance. Now, if you become a really big event, like an Elite Series event, the PDGA doesn't charge you to have other people additionally insured, and it's automatically just done. They will send you that for free because you're already an Elite Series event. That's a perk of being such a big, large-scale event. And so now, could there be a bigger conversation if some, I don't want to call them slimy or feisty, lawyers get involved, but if lawyers get involved, put your own adjective in front of that. If lawyers get involved, are they naming the city of Austin? Are they naming wherever that park is, the name of the park, Harvey
Pennock?
Yep, the Harvey Pennock Park or Park District. Are they naming Eagle McMahon? Are they naming Disc Mania? Are they naming the PDGA, the Disc Golf Pro Tour? Yeah, they're probably naming all of those entities if the right lawyer felt like they had a case and wanted to go after it. I mean, those are all just the reality of where we are.
I think we're lucky.
I'm not saying we're getting anywhere.
Correct.
I'm just saying that's what would happen.
I'm just saying, based on what I read on his Instagram, I feel like we're not going to see that. Thankfully, he says he wouldn't have much of a case after he said on his Instagram, I take fault for it because I thought it was going to be
never admit to anything.
That's right. That's your problem, Dave.
That's your first problem.
Let me get you in touch with some lawyers, Dave. Gosh, take that Instagram post down.
Yeah. No. Anyway, I'm not. Of course, we're looking at this in a, it's done and it looks like everything's going to be on the up and up and whatever. Yeah, you think about all those types of scenarios that could potentially happen. Gatekeeper, if they're the crew and they were contracted, I'm not a lawyer, clearly. I'm just saying, you think about all the feisty little ways that people like to get their mitts onto it and what could or couldn't happen. I'll finish that by saying is, I hope I never find out. Like that's where I'll leave that. I hope I never find out any of those.
When's your next event? I'm going to.
Yeah.
Start jumping in front of some discs, my friend. I will take you for all 27 Sexton Firebirds you have somewhere.
We'll see about that. Which is another reason, as a company, no joke, as a company personally, my company, I also have, not only am I an LLC, but I also then have an umbrella policy as part of my company's business, and then a personal umbrella policy.
So we can take the insurance company for all they're worth, Miller. God, you got to work with me here, Terry. Got to work with me.
Okay. As long as nobody touches my Frisbees. That's what matters. Don't touch my Frisbees. You can take my house. It's not worth much. All right. So is there anything else? Is there anything else? That is the Open at Austin, which everybody has to get used to saying. Is that only slightly less difficult than in remembering and saying than what's coming up next weekend?
Oh, Johnny? My gosh. What's coming up next weekend? The Innova Open at Texas State Championship, I believe. The Innova Open at the Texas State Championship.
I didn't look. I'm not working it, so I don't know. But, yes, that is the Silver Series that is coming up this upcoming weekend. Is that correct, Johnny?
Hold on. Give me a second here. I'll see if I can find it again. I had it up.
We are not paid for this advertisement? DGPT Silver.
DGPT Silver, Innova Open at the 28th Annual Texas State Disc Golf Championships. Listen, I'm a big fan of everybody. All the sponsors involved, everything. There has to be a character limit I'm going to start enforcing. I mean, literally, this tournament's name, a different one, is called the March 22nd Wednesday Oregon DGC's Weekly Flex Start Number 2 Wednesday, orchestrated by Cherryland DG Regis. I'm sorry, I will not attend your thing in Eugene, Oregon.
Just on principle.
Just on principle now. I was thinking about flying out there.
Says the guy whose
tomorrow.
name is Jonathan Van Derzen.
Jonathan Leonard Van Derzen.
Exactly.
Pretty long.
Yeah.
Correct. I know what it's like to have to fill out a Scantron and run out of squares, my friend. I know this pain. No, but the upcoming up this weekend is the DGPT Silver Innova Open at the 28th Annual Texas State Disc Golf Championships. It's in Houston. I don't know anything really about it. It's at what course? It's in Houston. It doesn't even say the course on here. I'd have to go to the. I guess I have to. I've seen some pictures from social media of people playing the course. It looks okay. I think on the broadcast,
I'm going to complain about it.
On the broadcast, Juliana said it was that it should be competitive. I think was her word.
Okay.
That we're going to see more scoring than we saw at the Austin Open.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't know. We'll all see together, won't we? Because the only experience I have in Houston is from Worlds in 2002, where we played the Complex.
And we went out at the Hurricane Hut.
At the Hurricane Hut and had our car towed.
That's another story for another day. Most of you know it. Also, so that's going on from the Silver Series perspective. I am excited to, again, reiterate that I will be heading over to Florida. I'm going to be at the Open at Tallahassee. And the 18th Open at Tallahassee, sponsored by Visit Tallahassee.
Not bad, but you're starting to push it a little bit there, Tallahassee.
Yes. So this weekend, looking forward to the action. I have the Disc Golf Guys channel with our insurance has been contracted by the event, and really looking forward to giving you first round feature card on MPO, and then rounds 2 and 3 we will have a 2-camera lead card coverage of MPO. So that's going to be going on this weekend. One of the mild disappointments, if we're just being blunt, is that at the end of the weekend, Paul Macbeth, who was leaving Texas and is planning to play in both Tallahassee as well as Sword on the Mountain next weekend, had made a post to social media, also had alerted me that he's going to be withdrawing or has withdrawn from the Tallahassee event. His little finger. And now he had some nasty blood blister type thing on his finger that he had dealt with throughout the entire weekend in Austin. What's going on here? An alarm I hear? Some kind of beeping.
Oh, I know what that is. My son will get it in just a second.
Is it? Are we dying of carbon monoxide?
No, he has a computer in his room that the internal fan is broken, and so when it boots up, it alerts him that the fan is broken by beeping at him.
Oh, perfect.
And so somehow overnight, he's sleeping right now, but his computer must have rebooted. Maybe it didn't update overnight and rebooted, and so he has an unfortunate 10:48 alarm where it's just screaming at him right now.
Okay, so anyway, so Paul Macbeth not competing this weekend. He's got a broken fan and finger or something, and we're going to see Matt Oram as your highest rated competitor there. He looks like the guy to beat largely because he is coming into this with a 21-point advantage over the next set of competitors, and it's incredibly competitive after that, but you would call Oram a favorite to take this down. So we'll see how it unfolds in Tallahassee this weekend. And as I'm going to quickly take a quick jump over, Ellen Widboom, we'll see her along with the Linz twins over there on the FPO side, along with someone I'm not familiar with, Nid Oventhanson. I have to reread that. That's a lot of letters.
Ovathanison?
We'll go with that. I'll find out this weekend and report back. So looking forward to being in Florida.
I believe Johnny McRae was registered as well. He's there.
He's right there.
Yep.
Yeah. So looking forward to it. Upcoming this weekend. All right, we got that covered.
I don't know if we have much else. Is there? And I guess we should quickly mention it, as it's been a little bit of a social media uproar. The Champions Cup is full with a long wait list. I think there's a 24-person wait list. 16 of those players are on the tour. They're touring pros. And there's a small hubbub over whether or not they should get in, or they should be allowed in, or why they didn't get in. whose responsibility was it to get them in and whatnot. I don't have a lot to say about it other than there was an entry period from February 6th through the 19th that was restricted to only 1,000 rated players and above. So they had an opportunity to register. I think there was some communication with the PDGA, or maybe some lack of communication about the fact that it opened and was available to them. 150 other people were able to sign in. I don't know where the PDGA posted it. But all I'll say is personal responsibility.
All right.
And we'll leave it at that. So if you're out on social media, you know that there's a bunch there, Ezra, Prez, Double G. There's a few other ones you can go and look at. Disc Golf Scene and look
James
at
Conrad,
and look at the wait list. But yeah. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. As silly as this might sound, is there? Of course, W.R. Jackson is the course.
Correct. It is.
Is there a conversation about if it's truly at max capacity?
I don't know that.
Okay. I'd have to look back and see how many competitors we had there last year. What did that look like? We all know that one of the easiest things that plenty of people can blurt out, and I've said this before, the most creative and clever people are always the people on the wait list trying to get into an event. They always have the brightest ideas. But you have to take into consideration things like inclement weather. And if you have a delay of X amount of time, whether that's 30 minutes, which is the minimum essentially, 30 minutes or an hour or 2 hours, and that ends up jacking up the completion of rounds or the tournament as scheduled, the first thing people scream about is, why are there so many people in this? We should have had plenty of time. If there were less people, then we could have got this in. So there is no silver bullet. There's no perfect solution here. I haven't fully looked into it other than what you've said, is that there are people that are on the waiting list that had a window to register that did not register for whatever reason. This feels very reminiscent, of course, of the USDGC. And for many years, there was a policy within the USDGC, and it sometimes fluctuated and or needed clarification. But something like this could happen. And I'm just going to arbitrarily use these. The people's names may not be true. But Double G wins Las Vegas Challenge, therefore earns his spot into the USDGC, the very first event of the year. I'm just fictitiously making this up. He wins one of the coveted spots to get in, or has earned his ticket, punched his ticket, whatever you want to call. For a while, they were saying, hey, you're one of 5 people that earned your way into this event. Here's your piece of paper saying as such. You have by such and such day to secure your spot, to go register. You
like 2 weeks or a month or something.
Yeah, or a couple months, whatever it was. You have earned this invitation, or you have qualified to play in it. And there was more than once where high-level professionals, one of which is a world champion right now, if I off the top of my head comes to mind, they just didn't get around it. They simply didn't register. They earned a spot, but they didn't register. They didn't do it within that time frame. And then fast forward to October, and there they are on Monday, at Monday qualifying, trying to get themselves into the tournament because their time had passed. And, of course, the internet uproared. How is this fair? This isn't right. Rah, 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 rah.
Oh, they turned into Scooby-Doo.
Exactly. Scoob. Like, personal responsibility is a good word. And if it can't be you, damn it, get an agent. Get your friend. Get your mommy or daddy. Get your number one fan club member to take care of it for you. A sponsor, whomever. There's got to be somebody that you can either enlist or hire or ask a favor of. Andrew Fish, I know, has stepped up on the internet. Whomever it is, find whom that is and get it taken care of. And now it's getting easier than ever. Not only do we have all this online registration, but money is a lot more fluid than it used to be among most of our top players. Back then, you had an argument of, man, I'm going to have the best year of my life as a mediocre touring pro, and I'm going to make $18,000. And I do not have an extra $250 that's 6 months away. I just don't have it. And there is something to be said of that. And I'm not saying these guys are rolling around in Scrooge McDuck money, but they certainly are more fluid, and sponsors have stepped up in a lot more ways to either reimburse or pay for you to have this taken care of. So that's my long-winded soapbox about it. And I feel bad, of course, to some degree.
I have a little sympathy for him.
Of course.
A little.
No, I don't love the idea of, so-and-so didn't get in, ha-ha. Look at that fool.
Not at all.
But it's hard. It's also hard to go, run to the grocery store and grab their Kleenex for them and be like, here, we didn't see this coming.
Ultimately,
because we did.
What I would love to see is, now I'll say this, on Disc Golf Scene, there is a button that says follow this tournament, and it will alert you 24 hours before registration opens. Now, that doesn't work necessarily for tiered registration, because with the Champions Cup, which is a major, you have the invites. And if you want to look at who's on the invite list, you can take a look at that. That's previous champions, world champions, things of that nature. And then they go to the tiered, your 1030 and above, 1020 and above. It alerts you 24 hours between the first one. What would be really nice is if the PDGA sent out an email for their majors to the people who are qualified, to anyone that's 1020 and above or 1030 and above when the registration opens. Because I don't believe there's right now a huge rush if you're a 1030 rated player and it opens up for you, because there's only so many of you. There's only, I believe, 75 or so 1020 rated players and above that are current with the PDGA. So if they could send out an email that says, hey, you're 1020, you're current, you've passed your officials exam, here's your invite, please sign up. Now, that does require that the PDGA have your current email address. That does require them that you make sure that it's updated on the PDGA site, or if they use Disc Golf Scene or whatever, because inevitably we all know what's going to happen is that it was sent to my other email.
Yeah.
I just looked on the PDGA site today at my own account, and it had an old address in there that I've moved 2 years ago, a year and a half ago or so. It had my current email, current phone, but it did not have my current address. So I updated it. It's great. And one of the gentlemen from the PDGA said he's actually working on that particular, not my plan, but the user side of it right now. That is his job over the last 20 or 40 hours that he's been working, is this particular area. So we need to make sure, as a player, you need to make sure that's up to date, because we all know this podcast is a perfect example. Players change phone numbers. Players lose emails. Nico had 4 Facebook accounts at one point because he lost the email address to recover the password, so he created a new one. And these are edge cases. Double G changes his phone and Terry talks to a stranger who says that they're going to be on the podcast. So
that a-hole stood me up.
He stood us up.
Least he could have done is joined us.
Yeah.
And then been vulgar or stupid or something.
Yeah, he could have joined the show and, and then not been Double G. So there is going to be, no matter what you do, you cannot take the onus off of the player in the grand scheme of things. And I've heard suggestions like, well, maybe we should use the tour card to register. And I say, well, no, you can't do that, because that's the DGPT. That doesn't integrate in with the PDGA, 2 separate organizations, and the two shall not talk. Not that they can't, but they don't. There's no official thing in the PDGA that says who's a tour card. That's a DGPT thing. And on top of that, do you want the DGPT responsible for registering you for majors? That doesnsont make sense to me. I wouldn't want that. What majors are they going to register for you? You want European Open? You want Worlds? Do you want all the putting contests at Worlds? Do you want driving? Are you going to be in the ace pool? Just none of that stuff.
You want first class ticket to Europe or
yeah? So that's why for me, I think that's a non-starter. Even though I've seen a couple people recommend that, but overall, there will be some onus on the player. There are a lot of levels. Some of these players are making well into the 6 digits these days. Some of them have agents. Some of them have managers. Schaefer Sports, some of them are. There is a lot of places that this can happen, and I hope all your favorite players get into the event. I hope everyone can play that is eligible. I want the best competition that's out there. The last thing I'll say about this that kind of grinds my gears a little bit are people who are saying, the typical, well, if all these guys can't get in, is it even really a major?
Oh,
And what I'll say is, who's not playing? The number 1 rated player in the world, Manabu.
Yeah.
So unless the PDG is going to fly him out and pay for that, is it ever going to be a major if he's not playing?
No.
So just if you hear anyone say that, is questioning the validity of the event because some players didn't get in, and you've got some 990 rated players who are in, just play the Manabu card. That's all I'll say. Yeah. And I'm done talking about that.
You can only beat the people who sign up.
Or who want to sign up and couldn't.
People who show up. People who are there. Those are the only people you can beat. All right. Well, again, as Johnny said, I hope everybody, I don't hope everybody gets in, because then they're going to have like a 400-person tournament. So
can I get in? I can't. I'm 931 rated. You have to be like 935 or 940 and above or something. I'm not eligible.
I mean, we could petition.
Good.
We could probably
sponsor
find you a
exemption
spot. Yep.
Sponsor exemption.
Yeah, we could make something like that happen. All right, so that's some of the chatter on the internets. Man, it's easier when you just ignore the internets.
It is.
I've learned that. So I'm getting better at it, but not entirely. I recently got pretty shredded for my Disc Golf Network commercial. Which I understand.
There's nothing wrong with the commercial. You and I have talked about this. It's mediocre voice work. It doesn't feel authentic. Like, it sounds fine. I could use a little more authenticity from you next time, Terry. I mean,
yeah. Well, it probably won't be next time. Anyway, I think we can close this up. We can close up shop for now.
Strong side chains.
Yes.
Yes.
And yet, it's funny because I think it was. I feel like how that commercial kind of actually lined up a little bit with some of what we saw in Waco, and I just thought that was funny. Yeah. Anyway,
it's just more fun for me to give you a hard time.
Oh no, I'm all good with it. I'm not being defensive of it. I'll throw that out.
It's a fine commercial.
I don't like hearing myself, but I don't
like hearing you either.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of which, then I won't be here next week, so suck it. I will be in Florida. As I just mentioned, I'll be covering Tallahassee and then shifting over. But you'll be on
the show. You just won't be here.
I maybe will join you, but I will be in Tallahassee and then transitioning over to the Brooksville area. Looking forward to my next 10 or 11 days or whatever it's going to be down in Florida. And so I won't physically be here next week.
Okay.
You'll try to survive without me.
I will do my best.
All right, we are going to. The last thing I will say, though, also about the commercial, and I never got around to typing this out last night. Maybe. I do not. Let me be very clear. I do not would ever want to be responsible for faking or redoing anything over the holy shot. That was Nate and Philo
and Ian
and I feel like there would be a level. First of all, I could never fake, I think, anything that would ever be clever enough to try to go over that. I wasn't on the call, and therefore, yeah. Secondly, I feel like it would be disrespectful even to attempt a commercial that then reshot over that particular moment. It's just that was their moment in history. I love it. It's
for all of its flaws,
I know a lot of people say like
it's natural.
And a lot of people say, well, you have the greatest shot. Like DGN has the greatest shot of all time. Why aren't you using that? And if they did,
nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying you should use the holy shot more.
No. I'm saying why they didn't for the commercial though. That's something that's said in there. That's why I wanted to address it.
Oh, okay.
I would never. I would nix that in a heartbeat. If somebody said, "Hey, we're gonna have you dub over the holy shot for a different version of it," I would just decline.
Bad idea.
Yeah. So I do want to throw that out there because I know that was by some people thrown out there saying, you guys have access to it. Why aren't you using that? Now, could it? Yeah. That's where I'm going to leave it. All right. We're going to leave the podcast now. What is this? 447?
It is.
I don't know where we are. But yeah, I guess we're going to call it. I want to thank Paige Pierce again for joining us. It's so funny because I feel like we barely talked disc golf, which I'm always good with. But it was great.
There's 1,000 other podcasts that'll ask her all the same questions.
Yeah,
Go listen to them.
We thank Paige for joining us and all of her incredible supporters and sponsors. I know a bunch of you guys showed up tonight to also make sure you could take it all in. So thank you very much. Congratulations yet again to Gannon Burr for his performance this last weekend. And we're looking forward to the Silver Series, the long-named Silver Series. If you're a Disc Golf Network person this weekend, take it all in all 3 days.
Yeah,
live.
The first silver event that is going to be broadcast all 3 days this year.
Yep. So take it all in, and then and when you're not watching that live, I'll have post production of Tallahassee all ready for you to go the day after. Every single day is the plan. So for Johnny V, I'm Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy. That's been podcast 447. Stick around. We'll have a silly little after show, and we'll do all of that and more on the other side. We'll see you then when you step inside the Smash Box.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's After Show.
You didn't say the podcast number.
447.
I was sitting there waiting, and then didn't happen.
447. We're here for the After Show. And I was just saying, in the very short break that we have, I don't feel like I've got a whole lot. I mean, I've got a lot of stuff going on. Stuff I'm getting caught up on. There was almost a moment of like weird calmness that I was feeling today of like, holy cow, I've got a list 50 deep of things I really do have on a to-do list. But nothing was like, oh my God, pressing. Like some of the other pressing things I've gotten done. I've gotten artwork to Discraft for the Skyline Classic, which big shout out to Discraft right off the top here. Looks like they're going to come through in a major way for me. As I wrote in the email, yes, I understand I'm a very late pain in the ass, and so I do appreciate.
I think you have your own file called Late Pain in the Ass.
Yeah, so I do appreciate them helping. I'm very set up for how things are looking in Florida over the next week and a half. Camera people and travel arrangements and some good stuff there. Like a lot of now, you know, knock on wood, you know, all that kind of stuff. There could be a major catastrophe, but for the most part, things are, yeah, I mean, I've got some discs to ship out and I've got things that need to get done. I've got MP40 footage completely edited from the memorial. So that really just needs commentary, which I think I said about this time. No, it's about this time a week ago when I started even making sure I had it all. I may just do on my own just to get it knocked out because that'll be easiest. But yeah, things are, as we said earlier, you celebrated a birthday yesterday. My younger daughter of my two, turned 12 today. So, and I'm home for that, which is always just obviously a roll of the dice. Oftentimes I'm in Florida for her birthday or around this time of year. So, yeah. And I'm getting my car back, which was backed into while I was at a disc golf meeting at a friend's house, and his wife didn't realize or remember that I was parked in the driveway. And so she had backed into my car. This was back in December. And with all my traveling, it didn't, the claim was made, but I didn't get around to actually getting it dropped off. Of course, I called up a disc golfer and said, hey, I'd like to bring you some business. And his shop is working on it. So that'll get completed. And just getting after it. And what Fraser out there earlier said, yes, just drink the mead already. I have this huge box that was sent to me in October or November. And as I said in the regular show, I actually didn't have any beverages in November, but this huge box, and then I've been gone so much that I'm excited to bust it open and see what mead is all about. And we don't need to go down that road again as to the conversation. But when it does come out, you guys are certainly going to get my quick take on it. I'm excited to try it out. So thank you very much for shipping some over to me.
The only other real disc golf news Ray brings up is that Prodigy has lifted the restraining order against Gannon Buhr. I don't exactly know what that is. That could mean that he's free to sign with another company. That could mean that they lifted it maybe they made a behind-the-scenes agreement that he is not going to leave this year, and so in that case they lifted it. We don't know anything other than they lifted the restraining order against Gannon Buhr. We will see what happens over the next few weeks if anything changes. He might just be with Prodigy for the rest of the season and then work from there.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's not a lot of information other than that. I have nothing else to say. I don't know what else to say about that.
How to follow that one up. All right. Well, best of luck to him. It was, without beating it to death, it was really interesting to see yet again another chase card victory this weekend. And, some are wondering if that's just going to be at all the norm. And
I wouldn't say the norm.
No.
I think it's going to happen more frequently, but not going to be the norm.
Yeah. Clearly that's going to be so dependent on the individual courses as well. Some courses or some players just don't allow for it. When you see, think about the the European Open. Think about that last year when McMahon and Macbeth were 12 strokes out in front of everybody going into a final round. Clearly it was only a 2-man race at that point. So yeah, I think we'll continue to see, it happened on a rare occasion. It just happens to have happened twice in the last couple of weekends. And Kristen, I do want to address this. A lot of people have said, why are you making such a big deal of Kristen finishing off the podium? She just came off of surgery, so it's not that crazy. It wouldn't have been if this would have happened in Waco. If she would have showed up to Waco and looked like she was a bit off, had a little bit of a slow weekend by her standards, everybody would be like, makes perfect sense. She's still in recovery or all these other things. But she came out and played so well at Waco, we immediately, I think, got comfortable with, she didn't miss a beat. She didn't skip a beat. She's back. There's nothing wrong with her. She played at 93%, which was still good enough to hunt down and pick up the win and hunt down Ella and get past her. So had she done it at Waco, it just, the timing would have been obviously so different, and that would have changed the narration of the story. But then when she comes to Austin, a lot of people were thinking, whoa, nobody's going to beat Kristen. Kristen's unbeatable. She proved that already last weekend. She's perfectly fine from her surgery. And then she comes and has a very human-like weekend where she actually does make a few mistakes, where she is a little bit fatigued, where she is off her game a little bit. And then you see her slip off the podium. I'm not making anything of it personally.
No. There could be
that's
a
why
dozen
I think,
reasons.
Yeah, and that's why I just think it was so many people. Yeah, to me, it was just about the timing of it all. You reverse these weekends, and it feels like it falls more chronological for what would have made sense. But when she won in Waco, we just immediately, and I've said this before, I'll say it again. I like Kristen a lot. I think she's going to go on to be one of the most incredible forces in disc golf, assuming everything remains the way she's been here for the last few years. Gannon Buhr has a very long career ahead of him. Same thing, assuming everything's great with him, his health, his sponsors. Neither of them are the GOAT. Can we just quit saying it? Neither of them are the GOAT. They're very good. They've had great seasons last year. They're going to have great seasons this year. They both might have great seasons for the next 5 years. They're currently not the greatest of all time. It so cheapens and makes you look so silly. It just does. You look silly. That's the best word for it. Is when you type onto Twitter or Reddit or Facebook, Gannon Buhr, GOAT. Just stop. Stop. Like, it's so ridiculous. We can have that conversation in 20 years, maybe. Not now. Okay, enough of that. And enough typing it.
Maybe.
It's so dumb.
Maybe for Gannon, it stands for greatest of all teens. I stumped you, Miller.
No, I was thinking. I'm thinking of. The kid that went to the end with him at USDGC, Nicholas Antala. Like, he clearly doesn't have all of the cred yet, but I'm just thinking there's going to be other teens that will likely
not right now.
Fast forward in 5 years.
Gannon's the only one that has an elite.
Yeah, he doesn't have a novice win.
Yeah, exactly. He's got
no, but like fast forward in
he's
5
just
years
missing
from
elite
now,
plus now,
and then show me the teen phenoms specifically out of Finland 5 years from now.
I'm with you.
Gannon may look like a dime a dozen in 5 years, comparing to some of the Finnish crop that's being raised.
Can't wait to harvest them.
Can't wait to harvest them. Anyway, you just
all
right.
Disc Blaster actually says Cole Redallen is good. One
GOAT,
100%.
He is very good.
He is. It feels like he might be the streakiest player we've seen in a while, because that guy puts up
he doesn't know how to par.
Yes. Well, no, just like he puts up a decent round, then he puts up what is arguably the greatest round of the tournament. He racks up 15 birdies, a bogey, and a par, and a double or something dumb.
Did it at Waco. Did it again this weekend.
He feels like he gets on these streaks where it's just he's
unstoppable.
He finds that flow, but he can't stay in it, and that's probably really good, because once he does figure it out,
he'll be the GOAT.
He'll be the GOAT, greatest of all teens.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He'll be the GOAT.
I don't know if he's a teenager anymore. He might be 20.
I don't recall for sure. Somebody can.
Yeah, maybe he's the Gannon of all time. Sorry, Missy Gannon. I'm just kidding.
Anyway. All right. So
that's Terry's rant.
For now, I had this conversation with Nate and Val, and they have nothing but love and respect for Kristen and Gannon. But I've expressed how just annoying it is to see.
At some point, it's literally just, and people know it. They're just doing it anyway. They're not to be annoying, but it's almost like it's fun to call somebody, people screaming at Giannis, "You're the GOAT." It's like, dude's won one championship. Everyone knows he's not, but he's a phenomenal player, probably the greatest of this current crop.
Greatest of all bucks.
Greatest of all bucks. He's probably the best of his current crop around his age in the NBA. Like, give or take 4 or 5 years, he's probably the best player that we're seeing. But we all know he's not the greatest of all time. There are arguments for 3 to 4 or 5 other NBA players that will always happen because they played in different generations. You could ask,
of course.
I mean, Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Bill Walton,
Kobe.
Yeah, I mean, there's arguments for depending.
And
on,
I
and
get
I'm
all
not,
that, but
and I'm
give
not an
Giannis
NBA player.
20 more years, and then maybe he could be in that conversation in 20 years. As soon as when Gannon's to be in that conversation.
So we're going to tie Giannis to Gannon as their careers move, even though Giannis is a little older, but whatever.
He's just a little bit. Anyway, all right, let's read off the board. It's something we like to do in the after show. I saw on a video last night that I was playing while I was doing some editing. Talked about all the reasons why your podcasts fail. I was like, oh, this ought to be good. Let's listen up. One of them was that you too many tangents. Yes. I was like, oh, okay. Well,
did they listen to our Paige Pierce interview?
Too many tangents, and just overall not getting to the real subject at hand. And it did make me think. Of course, we are structured differently than a lot of other podcasts.
I like the way in that aspect. I like the way our podcast goes.
And I don't know what I was going to say about that. Yeah, it's something about I don't remember. But anyway, one thing that we do, especially in the after show, is not only do we announce that the after show may or may not be about disc golf, so hence your tangents, but also the fact that we do love to interact with whatever you're giving us on the board. And some people sign up for the after show and they're all about it, and some people immediately tune off because they couldn't care less about either the questions or the conversations that may or may not be disc golf related. But just know we own that, and that is part of the after show, and that's one reason why we love it so much.
One of the GOAT podcasters.
Yep.
And I truly do believe actually he's one of the greatest podcasters, but has said, you get the chat room you deserve. And so
we deserve Disc Blaster?
We apparently do. You get the chat room you deserve. And so and I believe that kind of integrates in with the community. You get the community you deserve. If the hosts and the podcast is an awful negative podcast, you're going to get that. You're going to attract those type of viewers. I don't feel that is us. I think we have a very level-headed, well-rounded, polite, understanding, smart, good-looking, tall, or short, depending on what you want, chat room and group and community around Smashbox.
Yeah, well, either way, we certainly appreciate all of you here.
And the podcaster's name is Tom Merritt, by the way.
Tom Merritt. What does he podcast on?
He is host of Daily Tech News Show. And he was one of the very first people on Patreon, actually. And he's just in general he does a lot of other podcasts. He does something called The Word with Tom Merritt, and he does little bits on other podcasts, but he's got 2 or 3 or 4 different podcasts of his own that he hosts. Sword and Laser, which is like a book club about fantasy / sci-fi. He's just a very smart gentleman in general, and I think he's one of the best podcasters, one of the best people as well. But that's just me.
And speaking of great people, I think it was Robert. We're going to give him credit for it. Robert had super chatted earlier.
He did, like Robert Manahan,
possibly. Just wanted to say appreciate.
So thanks for the super chat.
Yeah, appreciate that very much. I will consume because I'm going to get on a flight, so I'll have a little bit of time for some digital download. No, I still don't have access to that. You don't have but I should.
You should because your daughters have an Apple device, so I think they.
I don't think that automatically assumes.
I thought they used.
We do.
That's what it used to be. I don't know.
But I will probably consume the largely talked about Chris Rock special. I know you've watched it. I know others have. I know, as always, I'm late to the party. That's all right. Largely because I wait till I get on a plane. But I've got it already queued up and downloaded, so I will take that in.
With no headphones, really loud.
Yes, really loudly.
On the plane.
On the plane. That sounds like a very kind and courteous thing to do. I will certainly do that. The new Ted Lasso, is that like season 3?
Season 3.
Okay,
and
I know
probably the final season is what they're saying.
Spoilers.
The spoilers.
I mean, if you're telling me it's ending.
My guess is that it's going to be the last season of Ted Lasso, but they will probably have like a spin-off show. It's too popular. Everyone loves it so much that I think we're going to see maybe, I don't know who it is, but some character spin-off and kind of get a side show at some point on Apple. I just don't know how they don't. When something is that successful and well regarded and liked, it feels like in general it's hard to kill that.
Yeah. or let those opportunities go by
Yeah.
and slip past you. All right, so I will likely take that in. I don't know if there's anything else on Netflix that I have either downloaded or that I need to get after. I would be interested in any other suggestions from you guys out there. All right. Eric says, lame, no Apple TV in this house. Yeah, that definitely is a problem. I know for me as well. How long until Eagle throws forehand again?
He has thrown a few forehands, even some distance ones. I think I saw one that was like 330 or something along those lines. I just don't think you're going to see him do it very often. I believe it's going to happen, and this might be the rest of his career, that unless he absolutely needs it, like where he walks up and says not only is it the best shot, but it's the best shot by a mile.
Yeah.
With the fact that I know I can't get there backhand. And then he's going to ask James Conrad, can I get their backhand? And Conrad's going to be like, well, yeah, I think you can. And Eagle's going to throw backhand. But other than that, forehand. If Conrad walks up and says, I can't get this one, then Eagle will throw forehand.
All right. Robert says Mahana. Robert Mahana.
Thank you, Robert.
Like Hannah Macbeth. All right. Well, we appreciate the super chat. Eric says that Dion posted that he recently had a baby, I believe.
Yeah, Dion Arlen, I believe, has like 12 children.
Oh, okay.
No, I think
he's got to pump up those stats on Statmando one way or another.
He's got to fill Statman.
Get the Arlen stats up.
Yeah, no, I believe he has 3. I think he has 3 children.
Which
I don't know for sure.
Which
4.
finger did Paul cut? Cut isn't quite the right word.
It's like a blister that popped open?
Yeah, it was more so like a blister, and it was his throwing hand middle finger. And I was going to pull it up and just see exactly how he described it. He did send me a picture of it. Nothing weird or creepy about getting Paul Macbeth finger pictures. I wonder if I can sell those.
I pay for those.
There's got to be.
Wait.
There's got to be.
You sell them? I pay for those.
Yeah, well, thank you for being a client. No, I did ask him how it was doing because, of course, like he had mentioned, he withdrew. He said he cut away all the callus and dead skin around it. Now it just looks like he's missing the whole side of his middle finger. Yeah, at just the wrong angle, it does kind of look like his finger's sliced off at a certain point. But it looks far less nasty and disgusting as it did on Sunday night when I saw an original picture of it. So,
and I don't know for sure. I logged in Disc Golf Network, and it's hard for me to tell anything because of my account. Is the Fierce documentary still available on Disc Golf Network? I thought it was supposed to be a limited run.
I'm going to just assume, and again, yeah, you and I might have some special access. I'm assuming that because if it was pay-per-view and if you were either your account had it or you paid for it.
Paid for it, but I still thought
then
it was
you might have access to it indefinitely.
Okay, because I was almost sure that it was just a limited release, even for people who paid for it.
Yeah, that I do not know for sure. I cannot answer that for sure.
Ray says it's available for him on the phone app.
Okay.
Thanks,
Eric
Ray.
asks, how are the DGN viewership numbers going? There was a post about it this weekend. Mo went out immediately following the broadcast and talked about peak concurrent viewers. And I know that's a little bit, obviously, that's different from subscription numbers.
Good numbers, like 45,000 for
was that what it was?
Total, I believe. Peak concurrent?
No. I think you're making stuff up.
Could be. I don't know.
I mean, it's not like you, but it's like you.
It's kind of like me.
Yeah, so that was, we'll see if we can find some of that. But
no, I'm not going to look for that.
Okay, we're just kidding. We're not. There was a post on Twitter. Jay says, I use super glue suggested by one of the guys I played with years ago. Bad idea. And that's exactly what Paul had done throughout the weekend. And that's very much a fix, a short-term fix, clearly, for a lot of players, is if you have a certain cut or something of that nature on one of your fingers. There's a product called New Skin that sometimes can be helpful. Usually it's not, I feel like, for most of our golfers. But a lot of golfers will actually just go out and buy super glue and will super glue a particular crack or spot, depending on where it is on, obviously, which finger. Everyone's a little different. But that is not uncommon whatsoever for people to do. And I believe that's something that Paul had tried throughout the weekend as well. but at the end of it, you have to ultimately let it be fixed or heal on its own. Ray says DGN resolved their Vimeo issue, and the last hole wasn't interrupted. That's good news.
I am cautiously optimistic.
Uh-oh.
I would not, by any means, say I'm not going to come out on this broadcast and say that problem is solved, because I think we have too small of a sample size. We have one event. I don't know what the numbers looked like as far as number of viewers popping in at the end of this round, at the end of round 3. I will say it looks good that it didn't buffer for everybody come the last 2 to 3 holes. I haven't been involved in any of the Vimeo discussions or conversations. I do know that they worked with Vimeo, that they set an engineer on it, that Vimeo, a lot of you probably got an email from Disc Golf Network explaining what the issue was and how they were going to resolve it. I hope that they have resolved it and that we never see that issue again. I'm just not 100% confident in it yet. I would say let's give it 2 more Elite Series events before we look back and go, "Whew, that was a really good thing that they did." So Terry, you have the peak concurrent numbers up. Can you tell me what the peak concurrent was?
Well, I'm trying to read this graph correctly. I see FPO and MPO. I don't know if these are... Oh, these must be rounds. I was thinking they were years or whatever. I'm guessing these are rounds.
All right.
So what I'm seeing is for round number 3, if I'm reading this graph correctly.
I looked at the total concurrent on the right side.
And we're looking at roughly 60... I'm going to call it 6,300 peak concurrent on the FPO side. And then a little more than double that. Yeah, a little more than double that, just short of 13,000 peak concurrent during Sunday's play on the MPO side. So that is what we're noticing. And then it looks like that is a 736% increase from last year's.
Now, here's what I'll say about that. Stats lie.
Yeah, well, so do I.
Last year, the Open at Belton, which I believe is what he was comparing it to, was a silver event. So we are talking...
And your final day was free? No, it wasn't. Was it? Because it was a silver event. Was your final day free? No.
So I believe he's only taking into account the final day, if he's... Because I would assume Mo makes that judgment. So...
But anyway.
I mean, it's good. Those numbers are great. I'm not going to argue. I think... In general, the DGN is trending up from what I'm not at liberty to share subscriber numbers, but they're looking very good. So I will say that.
All right. So that's what we're seeing. That at least was listed. Take it for what you will. As Johnny says, numbers lie.
We can make numbers say whatever we want.
I'm going to throw this back because I'm sure you didn't consume it, which I understand. If I were to ask you to name your favorite 2 or 3 songs.
Oh my God.
With the word push in the title.
I don't know if I can name more than 1 or 2.
I mean, I feel like there's 2 gimmies for our era and generation.
I mean, there's Salt and Peppa, Push It.
Okay. The other one's pretty easy that I would think you would.
I'm sure once you say it, I will.
You had their CD. You had a CD by them, and Push is in the title.
Is it Matchbox 20?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Just Push. Yeah, I think that's the name of the song. All right. I wasn't 100% sure because it's been a long time since I've heard that, but I'm like, is that it? Yeah. So Matchbox.
Any others?
Because
this was one of the questions that was in my post-production, I think, of Maricopa recently. And I don't know how I got off on my own tangent doing solo commentary.
There's 1,000 things.
You can do that. And then at that point, that was the question out to the rest of the world, was to name your favorite song or 2 with Push in the title. Nothing else came to mind?
No. Someone says, Disc Golf says Helmet with a question mark. Do they have a song called Push?
All right. Well, nonetheless, my two were Push It with Salt and Pepper, and then Push by Matchbox 20. And I see someone just replied on my. There's been a lot of interesting responses. Most of songs which I don't think I knew. So obviously, some of them are generational. Some of them are just an overall genre that I may or may not ever have listened to. But somebody on my page just a few minutes ago really went to town with their answer.
Pushing Forward Back by Temple of the Dog. That would be the top song for me.
So Push, Matchbox 20, they said. Push by Madonna. Push It, Salt and Pepper. Pushing Me Away, Linkin Park. Push, Enrique Iglesias featuring Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne. I don't want to. I do not want to disrespect him. Push, Avril Lavigne. Push, The Cure. Push Comes to Shove, Van Halen. Pushing Forward Back, Temple of the Dog, and Push Lenny Kravitz.
Song. I'm listening to Push It by Tool, which I do have this album. This is the Enema album.
So,
it's a good song. It's not great. I mean, I wouldn't say it's one of their best, but it's a solid song.
Okay. Anyway, just nothing more than a random question. These are the things that as I'm doing commentary at 2 a.m. on Maricopa footage, somehow I arrived. I think I said something about pushing on a hole. And then immediately that just popped into my mind. Some people have accused me or have questioned if I have a list of questions. And I swear I don't. I am just a stream of random thought. And then at that point during the commentary is when something triggers me to think of whatever it is the question is that I'm going to ask of you within my commentary. And I love you guys for jumping on the responses like you do.
One of my... I think I've said this on the podcast before. One of my guilty pleasures is two things.
Two of your guilty pleasures.
Two of my guilty pleasures, and they kind of tie together. Teenage rom-com movies, like your typical like Superbad, and the kids go to a party and crazy things happen, that type of thing. But also and I don't know why I love it, and I kind of equate the two of them together. Breakup songs, because everybody talks about how many songs mention the word love in them, and there's probably 100,000, maybe 1 million, quite literally. But I was thinking, what are some of the best songs about breaking up? And I think about, for me, I love Ben Folds' "Give Me My" the Black T-shirt song.
Mm-hmm.
Give me back my black T-shirt, you bitch. And I was thinking, what other ones? Because I listened to a couple months ago. I listened to the new Olivia Rodrigo album.
Okay.
Are you familiar with her? She sang the one song everyone knows, which is "Driver's License."
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I
when the album came out, I listened to it. There's like, I would say 4 or 5 out of the 10 really, really good songs on that. And for whatever reason, it pushes my button. Don't know why. Love it. But I was thinking, what are some of the best songs, like breakup songs? Because that whole album is a breakup album. Like, I mean, she hates
T Swifty when we need her too.
And that's what I was thinking as well, because T Swift has one on every album.
Well, yeah,
at least
one breakup or one song about it.
one breakup, because there's multiple songs. And so I was trying to think of like, and if you think of some, put them in the comments. Like, what do you think in your opinion, what is the greatest breakup song, or maybe breakup album? Because for me growing up, there was an album by Dashboard Confessional, and that hit me right in college. And for me, that was like that was a phenomenal breakup album. But I don't know of a lot more, but I do love them when I hear them, and I've got a few of them on my phone. So when they come up, I'm like, oh yeah, this is a really great song. What's it about? Someone getting their heart broken.
Yeah, it's funny because nothing like even comes to mind immediately for me. Like no one song immediately comes to mind. I definitely have to think about that.
Fast Car by, that's not, I don't know if that's a breakup song by Tracy Chapman. The funny thing is, I was just listening to it like 2 days ago, and I was like, oh, what's this video like? It's been a while since I've seen it, and I remember some of it, but I don't think it's a breakup song. I'm fairly certain it's not.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we just don't even understand, right? Like,
sure,
what they mean by
man, getting really deep into that.
Yeah,
Hurt by Trent Reznor might be that could be breaking up with heroin.
Huh. Yeah. Flowers by Miley, great breakup song if you know the history.
Almost any country song, probably.
I was,
where she leaves.
Yeah, I was just thinking of what is it? Lifehouse. Thinking of
with Verve Pipe. Would that be a breakup song? Even though, I mean,
yeah, with the
freshman.
Freshman. Yeah, maybe
kind of. I mean, it's a slightly different, but yeah, every country's a breakup song. But I don't like country music, so the whole Alanis Morissette album. That's a really you're not too far off.
I think I've talked about this again in one of my long journeys. I think it was to Sweden last year. I watched a documentary on Alanis Morissette, and it was great. It was phenomenal. Like, again, Johnny and I are of that age when she broke into her stardom.
I was working in the music department at Best Buy.
So, like, Jagged Little Pill was right in the middle of our wheelhouse of 100% pop culture, current pop culture, 100%. Like, yeah.
It was that and Tragic Garden.
Savage Garden?
No,
because that was later.
Gwen Stefani. Like, Tragic Kingdom. Sorry, Tragic Kingdom.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Like those two, and to me they're always tied together because it was like very much female-led empowerment type albums, and they came out very similar, and we couldn't ever keep them in stock. And this is when you had stock of CDs.
Yeah.
So.
Do you have the Spice Girls? Oh gosh, visiting Best Buy even to this day. I was just there yesterday. I briefly went in there. It's just such a different. Obviously, it's a different experience. Shopping is a totally different experience, and so on and so forth. But going into some of those stores, I
miss the giant CD aisles.
Yeah, exactly. Just rows and rows and rows of all those CDs.
One area just for singles. Yeah. One CD singles.
Oh my gosh! To think about all the money spent in all the silly ways that no longer exist at all. It was about this time. Was this before or after last week? Yeah, our podcast was before it last week when I was on the hunt for a TI-84 calculator.
Yeah, I saw that post.
And I ended up, thank you.
Is that for your daughter?
Yep, that was for my older daughter. And she, of course, needed one. It was an emergency. She needed it the next day. And to be fair, she did tell me months ago that she was going to need one, and then it really came down to the night before crunch time. So I'll take some of the blame for that. But I couldn't.
They're still like $80.
Well, I know I couldn't fathom.
It's built into your
spending
phone.
The $80 to $90 to $110 on one, which is why my cheap ass went out to Facebook and said, "Who's got them?" And that was actually one of my questions on my post production is, what are you doing with your TI-83 or TI-84, T85 calculator?
I'm sure I disposed of mine years ago.
And as a bunch of responses were, it's in my junk drawer, or I know right where it is, or it went from this daughter to this son, to now a grandkid or wherever. It is funny to think about how expensive those were, and the fact that we're still using them is absolutely
well. It kind of makes sense because everything's on your phone, but you can't allow phones in schools, so you still need a good calculator to do that.
Yeah, it is just crazy though to think about how, like you said, how expensive. If there's one thing that for sure hasn't somehow become cheaper, and like, for God's sakes, a TI-84 or 85 or 83, whatever, any one of those models, no, especially in today's day and age, that is like a $2 or $3 manufacturing cost.
I don't know if it's that low, but it's not much.
Think about it.
But it's not much.
If they
it's a circuit board and an LCD screen.
If they could afford to make those and sell those to us 20 years ago
for $80, the same amount,
$80 or $100, and they're still doing it today, and technology's only improved a millionfold, there's that cannot be a $3 item at cost.
You're probably not wrong.
Time for an uproar.
I just remember programming them with all of the formulas. So I literally just would type in the formula, the variables, and hit it, and it would solve it for me rather than having to actually remember the thing. Or we would program games on it, and blackjack was always popular Everyone programmed blackjack on their TI calculator, and we would just do. I cheated a lot with that calculator. I'm not gonna lie. I cheated in through school a lot.
I don't know.
Kids don't cheat,
They're apparently still a thing. Which I get like the functionality of it, but the fact that you're still talking about paying that much for a standalone calculator, which, let's be fair, like a lot of things you use for that 1 or 2 classes and then you just never touched it again. Mm-hmm. That's why I think there should be this passing along and turnover rate of them. So anyway, Just W says TI 84s are expensive because school districts are still wanting to pay those prices for them. Again, it's a
racket. Texas Instruments is.
That's how they get you.
That's how they
get you. All right. Do we have anything else? I already made a plug, but I'll make another one because there is actually still some registration available. Skyline Classic taking place on April 15th and 16th. Check your local listings for which divisions play which day. Basically, all your advanced divisions and your professional divisions all play on Sunday the 16th. All other divisions play on Saturday the 15th. So Southeastern Wisconsin, 2 great courses, going to be a really solid players pack. Double G jerkies, of course, going to be involved along with a bunch of other goodies. But that's April 15th and 16th. Both days are approximately half full. So we still have 72 signed up, or almost 80 signed up for Saturday and almost 80 signed up for Sunday. We can almost double those numbers because we have the 2 courses available. And then when those get full, Disc Blaster is going to be right there offering ghost holes, and we'll add a couple extra holes, and he'll marshal those. With a camera and no helmet.
With a camera. We think we could sell shots at Disc Blaster? Like everyone throws a thumb or a tomahawk, and he's got to stand out in the middle. What do you think, DB? You think you up for that?
Yeah, I think he would be. I think we make him up for that.
What I want to mention is patreon.com/SmashboxTV. If you are a Patreon supporter, you get these things ad-free.
What?
No ads. You don't have to listen to the Amazon ad. You don't have to listen to the Cerebral ad.
You still hear me plug my tournaments,
You still have to listen to Terry's ads, but those are read ads. They're more valuable.
Yes.
As opposed to the inserted ad. So patreon.com/SmashboxTV, and you will not have to hear the middle insert ad that you heard in the regular show and in the after show.
I like it.
And speaking of patreon.com/SmashboxTV, let us give something away, Terry. We have a random disc that you are going to give away out of your thing. I'm sorting this by first names.
Ooh.
We're just going to go straight up first names.
I like it.
Yep, we have 153 people eligible.
Ooh, we're just around the corner from some, what did I say? Yeah, Skyline Classic goodies. I may have ordered a few extra goodies that are specific to tournaments. So some of those might be in the mix, or some of my other goodies that are already within the stash. So we'll get something super duper out to you.
All right, Terry, what number? How many are we going to generate here?
We will generate 3.
3. All right. So our very first number is 125. Our second number is 87. All right, Terry. Higher or lower than 87?
Like almost
dead
right
center.
In the middle.
I'll take whatever you don't.
Well, the first one was 125, you said. So I'm going to go higher again.
Okay, I'm going to go lower than 87, and the number is 93.
Yes, right.
Terry, you're so right. You're so smart.
Always right.
You are
always
so
right.
smart,
you should always bet
Terry
on
Miller.
What I said. What I wasn't right about earlier, before Johnny tells you, Austin Turner, because this is what you've been on your chair for, Austin Turner did in fact win MJ1, which I believe at the time was 19 and under. Might have been 18 and under. I don't know.
Okay, so it was
But MJ1 World Championships. That's on my channel, folks. You are dying to go watch it. He did win that World Championships, and I incorrectly earlier said 2014. It was, of course, I had the course in my head. It was 2015 was the year.
We were at the ski hill in Michigan.
Over in Kalamazoo area. So LLK Zoo and the rest of the crew over there held the AM Worlds in 2015, and that's was my first time ever meeting Austin Turner, and he had taken it down. Of course, Anthony Barella went on to become your champion, winning it on the final hole, also at the ski hill that year. And talk about a class. Anthony Barella, then Isaac McDonald, who went on to win AM Worlds the following year.
But we haven't
Mark
really heard
Huther,
anything from him on the pro scene.
Not lately, but Mark Huther, of course, the Charlotte extraordinaire, had taken third that year, and Gavin Rathbun took fourth. And the next year, he went on to finish in the top 4 as well, I believe. So, all 4 of those players. Noah Meinsma.
I would say further down the list was Noah Meinsma.
Yeah, we see Noah Meinsma. Alex Russell, who's gone on to be the stud that we all know he is. So, Mike Conley, a couple other names that we certainly recognize.
All those people, none of them won tonight.
No, they didn't.
Nope. Manuel Oliver won tonight. Congratulations, Manuel, at the $2 level. Thank you very much for supporting Smashbox TV and all of our endeavors. I hope you're getting this ad-free, Manuel. Make sure you have that RSS feed right out of their Patreon support. You can put that into any RSS reader or podcast app, and it will give you the podcast ad-free that we put out every night on Patreon. Everybody else has to wait for the morning or wait for Friday's after show. Not you people. You're the special ones.
Who we like better.
I would flat out say I love them better.
Yeah. Along with Robert, who jumped in on the super chat earlier. We love you people. Mm-hmm. If you were like, oh man, those guys are so shallow, you could totally buy their love. Yeah, you can.
I almost bought Terry's daughter last night. I would have bought. She would have came home with my family.
You could have adopted her for the low price of a
Taylor Swift ticket
or an iPhone.
Oh, she doesn't have an iPhone. She does. I was joking with her.
She does, but she wants a new one.
She wants a new one.
Hers is actually really old.
That really makes sense because I was joking that it still had a button. But no, we were last night sitting next to each other looking at Taylor Swift ticket prices for Chicago, and the cheapest one we found was like $900 in nosebleeds. But of course, the ones that we wanted and we were looking at were around the range of $2,000 to $5,000. She'd have abandoned your family in a heartbeat if I was serious.
Yeah. I would sell her out for a Taylor Swift. Good luck with the drama that comes with her.
Oh, God, I could not deal with her.
I mean, my other daughter is getting currently ghosted by Hannah Macbeth. She sent her a message trying to get on her Swiftie ticket plan. Apparently, Hannah hasn't even replied yet, so I'm not calling her out. But
Hannah's got Swiftie tickets? Lucky,
I'm not
lucky,
saying that.
lucky.
I'm just saying my daughters want to be friends with her if she goes.
Well, the funny thing about concerts, and I understand there is an experience I love. I'm going to a concert next month. Going to 2 concerts coming up. But as your daughter had said last night, she's like, yeah, we watched live TikToks of it all night. And I was like, yeah, I guess you can kind of just
watch stream of it anyway.
Almost a stream from different scenes at TikTok from different people filming it. So I'm never going to doubt anybody that wants to go to a live concert.
Yeah. Need more input? Yes. I am enjoying that sparkling ice. And live to listen to also jumped in on a super chat. So whomever you might be, thank you so much for jumping in on a super chat. We appreciate that. So I don't really honestly feel like I've got much more. I think we can wrap it up. We're going to be, short of that 3-hour window. And that's what...
Just a few minutes.
That was what one of the podcast things said. The downs, they're like, if you go over 3 hours, you might be too long. Okay, maybe not. But here we are.
Charlie Eisenhood took a little swipe at us on his podcast jokingly about our long podcasts. And all I thought was, we do ours once a week, and we get all this stuff out. They do 2-hour-plus shows. They're not that far off from us. So I'm not saying, but I'm saying.
Last time I checked, we don't have paywalls in front of our podcast either. Don't they?
They do have an exclusive portion of their podcast behind a paywall, usually like a separate interview.
I forgot to care. Okay, so
but not us. We give you everything.
We give you all of this action
because we're too lazy to record another one.
Exactly, and we're free. We appreciate all of you guys for joining us again. Thank you to our super chatters. Thank you to our Patreon subscribers and supporters. We sincerely appreciate you, as I do on my personal channel, and I know Johnny does. With all the stuff he's doing with the exclusive side of fantasy disc golf. So we do appreciate it. We're going to close it out. Next week, I'll be coming to you from Florida. We'll be talking to someone, probably a Tallahassee Open winner, if I had to guess. That would be a logical guess, but we'll see how that goes. And, enjoy some of the spring weather.
Or the Texas States winner.
Or the Texas States winner, whatever you do. Enjoy the spring weather if it's coming your way. It seems like it's getting a little nicer here. Looking forward to it over the next week. For Johnny V, I'm Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy. That's podcast 447's after show. We'll see you next week. You step inside the Smash Box.